Good evening, everyone. I would like to call the City Council meeting in order. City of Calexico at 6:45 p.m. Today, the date is July 20, 2010. And City Attorney, do we have any item to discuss or to inform to the public? Will you please?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, items A and B were discussed, direction was given, no reportable action was taken. Item C for closed session was continued until August 3rd, 2010.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I would like to invite you to stand up and raise for the pledge of allegiance. Councilman Romero, will you please lead us on the pledge of allegiance?
Ready, begin?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I would like to entertain the motion to approving the agenda.
So moved.
Second. Okay, so moved by Councilman Romero, second by Councilwoman Maritza. Motion passed. Okay. All these in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. What do I do with it? At these times, I would like to have public comments, and I have some requests from City of Calexico for oral communication. Layoff, permanent part-time, and Carlos Valdez, will you please come up to the podium?
Good evening. Buenas tardes. I only have 3 minutes, así que voy a hablar en español para hacerlo más rápido. Mi nombre es Carlos Valdés. Trabajo para Redevelopment Agency, Housing Division, y soy un permanent part-time. La razón por la que estoy aquí es que se nos ha notificado que en 30 días nos dieron una notificación para que en 30 días fuéramos despedidos. Yo tengo trabajando para la ciudad desde diciembre del 2007 y nada más comentarles mi apoyo a la ciudad ha sido desde el 2007 hubo un fondo del Estado por las heladas del 2007 y estuvimos asistiendo a personas que fueron afectadas directa e indirectamente con programas de asistencia a personas, principalmente personas de bajos ingresos como trabajadores del campo o personas que tenían un bajo ingreso. También hemos asistido en programas de rehabilitación para Rehabilitation Program para personas dueñas de casa y recientemente hemos estado apoyando en el programa por el reciente temblor de abril, hemos estado asistiendo a personas que fueron desalojadas del hotel de ANSA, principalmente fueron seniors, pero también otras personas que fueron desalojadas. Y pues la razón básicamente es decir que estamos siendo despedidos. Hay algunas dudas que tengo yo en cuanto que, por ejemplo, hay personas que trabajan con contratistas que no son empleados de la ciudad y parece ser que a estas personas no se les está despidiendo. Entonces se me hace una razón, o más bien se me hace injusto que personas, la palabra que se usa como part-times, pues es un decir. Hay personas que tienen trabajando desde 1993, que al rato por cierto va a hacer uso de la palabra, personas que tienen 8 años, 7 años, 5 años de trabajo y se les están despidiendo. Entonces, en mi caso personal está siendo afectada obviamente mi familia. Yo soy el único ingreso para mi familia, tengo 3 hijos menores, soy dueño de casa, he estado en proceso de modificación de mi préstamo y pues el banco con quien yo estoy haciendo modificación de mi préstamo hipotecario me pide constantemente mis talones de cheque, mis check stubs. Entonces, en el momento en que yo le diga, sabes que yo ya no te puedo enseñar talones de cheque, pues obviamente voy a tener problemas con mi préstamo hipotecario, con mi casa y con todas las dificultades que presenta para mi familia y para esta comunidad, porque recuerden que las personas que se quedan sin trabajo, pues dejan de tener un ingreso suficiente. Entonces, yo quiero pedirle al concilio que reconsidere esta decisión de haber despedido. Somos 11 personas que trabajamos como permanent part-timers y que consideren, creo principalmente los nuevos miembros del concilio apenas están llegando y que tengan que les den tiempo, dar tiempo para vean que haya otras opciones y ver esto como la última opción, como se nos había estado diciendo siempre. Entonces, que den tiempo. El día 12 de agosto es nuestro último, esperemos que no sea nuestro último día de trabajo, pero que consideren, y creo que hay otras opciones, principalmente el presupuesto, entenderlo, profundizar y ver otras opciones, porque no solamente nosotros estamos siendo afectados, sino la comunidad está siendo afectada. Brevemente decirles que estuve ayer en la librería pública, estaba llena la librería, y mucha gente también de la librería va a ser despedida. Entonces me comentaban las personas que trabajan ahí, una de ellas es la persona que es la que lleva todos los programas para niños, la lectura de niños. Entonces muchas veces decimos la policía, le damos opción a la policía, pero si nosotros no atendemos a la comunidad, muchos de esos niños ociosos van a estar después teniendo problemas con la ley. Entonces,
Carlos,
sí.
Nomás son 3 minutos.
Perdón, es todo lo que les quería decir, simplemente que consideren esto como, y que hay otras opciones. Muchas gracias.
Gracias. Daniel Marrón, pase al podio.
Buenas tardes, autoridades y ciudadanos aquí presentes. Mi caso es similar al de Carlos Valdés. Se me fue avisado que voy a ser despedido dentro de 30 días. Tengo 8 años trabajando para la ciudad de Calexico, en Traffic Controller. Tengo una familia aquí en Calexico, pago renta. Entonces me voy a ver afectado, pues de muchas maneras voy a batallar, aunque tenemos la posibilidad del One Stop. Pero creo que, así como dijo Carlitos, hay otras opciones. Pues tenemos el programa de GPS, pues ahí hay mucha gente que se le está haciendo el favor y nosotros no están tomando en cuenta. Pues tenemos mayor señoría, mayor antigüedad. Yo también veo la posibilidad de los medidores del downtown. Tenemos 560 medidores que no están trabajando. Aquí el año fiscal es de julio a junio, entonces ya van 8 meses. Si consideramos el verano pasado, se le dio 4 meses a la ciudad y al comercio, y 4 meses actualmente, ya son 8 meses sin trabajar los medidores. Es un ingreso muy fuerte que se está perdiendo, y no sé qué está pasando, las decisiones que está tomando la autoridad, no sé aquí, pues, pero deben tomar en cuenta programas que sean autosuficientes y que tengan ingresos para la ciudad de Calexico. Se está perdiendo mucho dinero, no quiero dar cifras, pero es muchos miles de dólares. Se tiene que ver eso en downtown. Gracias por todo.
Marta López, por favor, pase al frente.
Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Marta López. Disculpe, pero es que me afecta. Me afecta mucho esto porque tengo 17 años trabajando para la ciudad Yo tenía 25, ahora tengo 42. No se me hace justo que me den 30 días. Yo soy madre soltera. Yo tengo que ver por mis hijos. Siento como que no voy a ser un ejemplo bueno para ellos. Discúlpeme, pero es que no duermo, de veras que no duermo. Me afecta mucho esto que me está pasando. Ay, no, discúlpeme, de veras.
Albert Velasquez, will you please come up to the podium?
Good evening, council members. My name is Albert Velasquez. I'm representing the CMEA SCIU Local 221. What you've heard today is just a small fraction of our members who are impacted by the proposed layoffs that are to be in effect on August 12th. Carlos, Daniel, and what Martha clearly demonstrated is how these are impacting the city of Calexico and also those who have served the city of Calexico proudly. Some for as long as 17 years as Martha, others 8, 7, or 3 years, proudly giving their service to the city that they love. As Carlos had mentioned and as Danielle has mentioned, most of the programs that are impacted, some of these are programs that can be revenue generating, as Danielle has mentioned. Impacts to libraries. As Carlos had mentioned, the library was full, and now we're asking a children's librarian, a librarian assistant, to be laid off. What's going to happen to those children? Carlos had mentioned this. You know, we're in a city right now, we want to do the best for our children. I think also in the docket it talks about promoting bilingual education. So obviously, keeping our children safe, teaching our children is vitally important. It's one of the key aspects of a community. And now we're asking librarians, people who help mentor and tutor our children, to just push them off by the wayside. 17 years, 8 years, 7 years, all of that is just pushed aside. There are other avenues that haven't been explored. It was mentioned contracts that could be used to offset some of these layoffs that we're mentioning here. What we'd like to ask this city council is to really look at and see whether or not all avenues have been explored to answer this deficit so as to not impact the city services that are vital to the citizens of Calexico, and to remind that these workers that are impacted are also citizens of the city of Calexico, who again have proudly served this city. When we talk about, and Daniel has talked about this as his work as a traffic controller, that's a revenue generating department. My understanding is that we're trying to generate revenue, and now you're cutting people that work in departments that can generate that revenue to put us back in the black. And I think that that's somewhat short-sighted. Again, I urge this new city council, this newly reconstituted city council, to take a look at that budget, to see whether or not every avenue has been taken. Because again, these are people who love what they do. They're proud of what they do. And to just push them aside like that and not even consider other avenues, I think speaks volumes of possibly how the city may respect those workers. Thank you.
This item is not in the agenda, and we give you the opportunity to express themselves. Themselves. I know we are working in some other options, and I know there's some other options that we need to help you. And I mean it. And that's all I can say about these people who really came forward to the podium. Okay, next person in the audience is Arturo Noriega. This is regarding public transportation taxi service.
Okay. This is about the taxi service here in Calexico, and I'm here on behalf of the taxi drivers, mainly from the companies Calexico Taxi and Border Cab. The problem is that taxi drivers are having 12-hour shifts, and they're not getting any, sometimes they're not getting any money out of that shift, since they're getting $5 to $12 a day. And I complained about this. The city clerk, Mrs. La Cuesta, was the one who talked to me. And I wanted, since I had a letter of complaint, I wanted her to get me a chance to talk to the council members about this problem. But they didn't allow this to go through. According to them, there was nothing that the council members could do about. What I'm talking about is that they're charging too much for the rent. That's, for example, $70 for a day shift. And the drivers after a 12-hour shift are not getting but $5, $12, $15 a day. And that's too much. Working that many hours and not getting enough. The drivers are paying their rent and the gasoline. And the problem is that there are too many taxis here in Calexico. There are 3 companies, 45 cars altogether. The business is going down, but the number of taxis remains the same. And I see that only the council members can decide on the number of taxis that should be servicing the city of Calexico. I got a copy here of the Certificate of Public Convenience and Necessity here. The part where it says 5.80.050, the Certificate of Determination criteria that says that the council shall investigate and consider the demand of the public for additional taxi cab service, B, the financial responsibility and experience of the applicant, the adequacy of the existing taxi cab service, the number, make and type of the equipment to be used, and so on. And I think that's something to consider about this situation. As I was saying at the beginning, there are too many cars, and the necessities for the city are lower than that. I mean, it's up to the council to determine the number of taxis. That's what I want you to do something about, because they're charging too much for the rent, and that is for the taxi drivers, and they're not getting any money home. So I'm gonna try to resubmit the letter of complaint that I had submitted before in the past, in March, as a matter of fact, that it didn't go through. So at least I wanted to say that before you. That's about it.
Okay. Yes, wait a second. City Manager, will you please set a meeting with Arturo Noriega so you can explain to him all the city ordinance about the taxis and everything regarding transportation?
Yes.
Set a meeting.
He walk out.
I'm sorry, he walked out, but
We'll get the information from him.
Yes.
City clerk.
okay, thank you. And also I have another oral communication, but this is on item 13 and 11. So, Mr. McClendon, you need to wait for your comments. And also, Jose Luis, you need to wait until comments for this item. Okay. Also, now we have a consent agenda.
Mr. Mayor, we have a presentation by Imagine Charter School, Armida Romero.
Oh, yes. Yes, will you please come on forward to the podium, please? Item 6, yes.
Yeah, don't pull on it, just talk into it.
Good evening, council members. My name is Susan Castro. I am the principal at Imagine Imperial School, and I'm here to tell you about our school and to explain a little bit about what a charter school is about and what Imagine School is offering to the families in the Imperial Valley. This is a picture of our school, and you probably won't recognize the fact that this is the old Sears building. Looking at that picture, you might not realize that that right there, where you see the little accordion cover, is actually where the automotive department was. So this is a school that is placed on Imperial Avenue in an area that has been blighted. The building has been empty for several years, and it's revitalizing that area, which is a good thing for our community, and bringing in some jobs and making the area look much nicer. This is just part of the complex that exists there on Imperial Avenue in El Centro, and there have been many inquiries beyond that for the use of the rest of the building. This is a picture of our school, shows the classrooms, the entrance. It's an indoor school, which is wonderful for students because they won't have to leave a building in order to go use the restroom, and because of the heat, that's really an advantage. That school has currently a design for 33 classrooms. We will be opening August 23rd with 19 of those classrooms. Every year we will add another grade, starting with kindergarten through 4th grade. When we open, adding a grade 5th up to 8th grade eventually. This is okay, what you just saw there at that last, this picture is also the layout of the school, that it shows that it takes just part of that complex there, and that there is a playground in the back. The side street and the entrance to the school is via. What are charter schools? Sometimes there's great confusion about what a charter school is. People think that it's a private school, and it's not. It is a public school. It is publicly funded. It is tuition free. There is no cost to attend. However, it is different because it is privately owned. It is connected to the school district. It went to the school district in El Centro to get approval, and it is regulated by the state, but it is considered a school of choice, meaning that those students that attend, those families that choose to send their children there, do so because they want to, not because they live at a certain address. So the school, Imagine Imperial, may draw students from anywhere in the Imperial Valley, anywhere in California actually, and so it's a school of choice, and that's a good thing because it's good to have choices. It's sort of families make choices for their children all the time, whether it's in shopping or any other decisions. And schools are now, with charter schools, that allows that to occur. A family can choose where they want to send their student. Imagine Schools is a large organization. It's the largest charter school organization in the United States. It operates 72 schools in 12 states and the District of Columbia. California does not have any Imagine Schools until the school at Imagine Imperial. So it's the first charter school. It's being followed by 5 other charter schools that will be opening up in the years to come in Riverside County. So Imagine Imperial will be a model school for California. It employs primarily teachers, 95% are educators, and it serves 70,000 parents and 36,000 students. Imagine School is measured by 6 measures of excellence, including academic growth. There is testing at the beginning of the school year and at the end of the school year in order to see what growth has been attained over the school year. I also need to mention that the testing that all the other schools, other public schools also are held to, Imagine School is also held to that. That would be the state testing. Parent choice. How do we measure our effectiveness? By the parents that come back the following year. If they do not like the school, they will not come back. That is a very instant feedback for us in terms of whether or not the parents, the families believe we are doing what we are supposed to be doing with the education of their children. We have character education, which is important when when children are formulating their characteristics and being good citizens and knowing right from wrong and making good choices. Economic sustainability is important. We must stay and live within our means as a school. We have shared values of integrity, justice, and fun. And I want to mention that fun in this instance could be for families to be involved with the education of their children. It's a satisfaction that they have in being part of their child's education and being part of the decision-making. Satisfied parents will also have fun in that. Okay, language acquisition program is what makes our program very special. We're developing biliteracy, speaking, reading, and writing in both English and Spanish. And although there are 2 languages here in this valley and people speak English and Spanish all the time, it is finally in a formal type of program that develops both languages at an academic level. Some bilingual programs previously had to do with transitioning the Spanish speaker into English as quickly as possible. And we will also be teaching English to Spanish-speaking families, children, but in addition to that, we will be teaching Spanish to English-speaking children. So there will be 2 valued languages, not just 1. And it's done at an early age, kindergarten, starting at kindergarten and working its way up. That's the time, that's a natural time for children to acquire language. As they go through their developmental stages, language is attained when they are young and in the primary school prior to entering kindergarten, actually, and then it can be academically developed as a subject area in the school and integrated throughout their other subject core areas. It will help them develop more strength in terms of problem solving. A person that knows and has a grasp of 2 languages will understand more concepts. They develop their brain and the cognitive flexibility that it brings about. It helps them to prepare for the high school requirements in language and go into college. It is very likely that people that have command of 2 languages will try to learn more languages, and that's very important also. The cross-cultural exchanges that occur in a bilingual and a school such as Imagine Schools it develops a multicultural awareness. Now, it empowers students. And now I want to talk a little bit about the self-esteem building that it will bring to children. When a child is in school and they speak a different language, sometimes their language is not accepted, and they begin to feel like their language that is spoken at home is maybe not valued. This program values 2 languages, and so there will be interactions between children where the Spanish speaking will be a model to the English speaking child, not just the English speaking child, the model to the Spanish speaking child. It helps the child develop their self-esteem, and that needs to occur early in the ages because kids go through so much in terms of self-esteem when they go into middle school and into high school. So this is to their advantage. There's often questions about our teachers. Are they qualified? Yes, they're qualified. They're highly qualified. Not only are they certified with a class of credential called a B-CLAD, which is the bilingual addition to a credential. They are also thoroughly bilingual in English and in Spanish at a high level, high academic level. If they do not have the B-CLAD, which most of the teachers do, they have the CLAD credential, which means they have gone through a battery of classes to know what skills are needed to develop lessons and present lessons to second language learners. There are individual strategies that will be utilized, and of course we get our information, the teachers will get information based on the testing and their daily interactions. They will design an individual learning plan for each of the children, and that will power their grouping and the strategies that they use for the students throughout the year. There's a safe learning environment. Of course, that's important to parents. Parent involvement, I've touched on that, and we have before and after school programs. Now, we're in El Centro. We have busing for students that are in Calexico and Brawley and in the areas in between. So we're designing our transportation routes at this time to accommodate as many families as we can so that transportation is not an obstacle. But what we see occurring is that many of the families that work in El Centro live here in Calexico or in other areas, and so they feel that it's convenient to take their children there. Even if they go in before 8 o'clock, they can bring their child in with the before school program, or they can, if they get off later, then the school usually gets out. There is daycare for their child, and of course during that daycare they will get homework help and other recreational activities. We're currently enrolling kindergarten through 4th grade students. We'll go to 8th grade. All students are eligible to attend that live in California, and we're accepting enrollment at this time. We are nearly full to capacity in terms of our projected enrollment, so we do encourage families to act on it quickly. It's a good opportunity for children, and I hope that this cleared up some of the questions that you might have, but if you still have questions about the school, we're open for questions at this time. I have a couple of my teachers that came with me, and they're also excellent at answering questions, so I'd like to invite them to answer any of your questions. Sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Marquez. I'm one of the teachers at Imagine. I just want to go over a couple of things that I have the opportunity to answer for some of my parents. They typically ask me, how long is a day, the school day, what is our schedule? So our schedule is going to be from 8 in the morning to 3 p.m. for the whole entire school. So for kinder, there's no a.m. or p.m., it's the whole day. Also, they ask about the after school and before school programs. We're going to be there from 6:30 in the morning to 6 p.m. and there might be a small charge of $25 for the whole year, but we're still working out the details on that. We are having the National Food Program for lunch. Also, we are going to be using uniforms. So we're going to have 3 different colors for the shirts, 2 different colors for the pants. So the shirts are going to be the military green, the white, and the burgundy. And for the pants, we're going to have the navy blue and the beige. Also, we're going to have 24 kids in a classroom for kinder to 3rd grade, and 30, the max, for 4th and on. And those are the questions that parents usually ask me, and I just wanted to go through them quickly, just in case any of you guys had those questions. And also, we're here Thursdays from 6 to 8 at the Carnegie Tech Center, if you would like to go to that session. So, Curtis.
You see why I hired her. Thank you.
Thanks to you.
Mayor, I have a question. You already answered one in regards to the certified teachers, because you have a public school and then you have the private school. And in the private school, there's not really a requirement that the teacher be certified. But in this case, in your school, they're going to be certified teachers.
Because it is a public school of California.
Now, once the program is from kinder to eighth, is it where the transcripts of your school will then be transferred to the other public school, so they can attend whatever public school they pertain to, as far as the high school or the middle school?
Yes, absolutely. Although we may by then have developed our high school.
All right. Thank you. Good luck. I would also suggest that you, if you haven't approached the chambers of the different cities, do so.
We are a member of the Calexico Chamber and other chambers in the area.
And you made presentations with them? It would be recommended.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, City Attorney, I didn't see in this agenda City Council comments. Can I ask my colleagues about that, or we can talk about that?
I know, we realized that earlier today that it was left off of there, so if the council wants to make brief comments, I think that's appropriate because an action won't be taken on them, or you could do it under the future agenda items section that's at the end of the meeting.
I'm going to start right now. That's okay? See? Okay, I'm going to start with, on my left, Maritza, do you have a City Council comments regarding the city? Yeah, any comment that you want to talk about it?
I guess the comment that comes to mind right now is with regard to the employees that approached us, Mr. Valdez, Mr. Marron, Mrs. Lopez, Mr. Velasquez. That is a concern of ours as well. We are wanting the best for our employees as well, and it is a complicated issue, a very serious issue when it comes to employees, and we do have that in mind. You are there discussing your personal lives, and it does affect us. We do have that in mind because this is a people issue right now as well. So I just wanted to say that is something very present in our mind right now, and we have been looking at that as well. So I just want to make sure everybody knows that.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Hodge, Bill Hodge, do you have a comments?
Question first. The comment would lead to a wanting to put something on the agenda. So it's just best to wait at the very end, or could I make the comment and then later at the end? Does it matter?
Make the comment.
I can make the comment now. Well, then two comments. To concur with Councilman Hurtado. Okay, absolutely, and forgive me for the gentleman that stood up and said that there are other avenues. I totally agree with you, and I will do my best along with others to seek out these other avenues so that we don't have these layoffs, or we can minimize them. Ideally, it would be great not to have them at all. And I do believe that there are other avenues in restoring the budget and saving money so that we can avoid these layoffs. So I'm listening to you, and you have my support, and I will be moving forward on that. The other comment is a critical comment, and it deals with I forget what was the last city council meeting, not the Friday one. What was the date on the Tuesday? That was 2 weeks ago. Is that correct?
Yes, the regular council session.
Okay, what date was that?
Reorganization.
Right.
July 6th.
July 6th. And it dealt with budget proposals. And then that meeting ended, and then we had a special meeting on a Friday afternoon. July, was that 6th?
Oh, actually the meeting was June 28th, I think. And then the subsequent meeting was July 2nd.
Thank you, Councilman Romero. All right, I want to say that what took place was bad governance. In the sense of having the meeting on a Tuesday and then that subsequent Friday at 12 noon, having the city council meeting without any proper information or notification ahead of time. And at that Friday meeting, people, the public, was not allowed to give their input. That's part of bad governance. I disapprove of that. I felt bad, I was sitting over there, that we were not able to speak. And not only that, but there were 2 budget proposals that were put up here at that very moment. That's not transparency. That does not give the public time to study, to process, or even the city council last-minute proposals. So I just need to say that that was wrong. And as far as I'm concerned on my watch, and I hope others support me, that we're not going to have that happening again. And so at the end of the meeting, I would like to make a resolution or to put something on the agenda pertaining to that. Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you. Councilman Romero, do you have comments?
Yes. Well, one of the things that I do want to inform everyone, some meetings ago, former Councilman Hermosillo asked that the information be more readily available for the meetings that go on at the Heffernan Memorial and the JPA. They were not the minutes were not included in this one, but they the 2 ladies involved in this, in putting the package together, assured me that that they will be included in future meetings as informational items. The other thing is for your info, and one of the issues that continues to be out there is regarding the Arizona State Bill, Senate Bill 1070. Just for, if there's any interest, there is going to be a meeting July 22nd in Phoenix to further pursue this issue. And those are the 2 for right now. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Castro.
Mayor, do you have public comments?
Well, actually, I just want to apologize for being late. I had some business to take care of in San Diego, some school business, and I'm here. And that's all I have to say regarding the 1070 bill from Arizona. If anyone attends, make sure you take your papers with you.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Do I need to worry, John?
No, not you, Mr. Hodge.
Okay. Now we can start with the consent agenda. But
as a point of order, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem Castro, the ORMAT Business Development presentation right under Imagine Schools, that's a separate item. It's not related to the agendized item for the enterprise zone on item, which is item number 17, item number 18. So they are here to make a presentation involving our wastewater treatment plant. And that's Charlene Wardlow.
Yeah, I'll take it. Okay, that would be item, was that on the business section item?
18.
No, it's right there.
Number
right
18?
after first page.
So they're going to make a presentation?
No.
Just make a presentation?
No, this is a separate, item 18
item.
has nothing to do with this.
Oh, okay.
This is
You're
part of the
indicating that.
presentation part
All
at
right.
the beginning of your agenda.
Okay. So we will have Charlene Wardlow. Okay. From ORMAT Business Development.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. I appreciate the opportunity to be before you tonight and tell you just a little bit about what we've been doing over the last year. Just quickly, and I realize it's already a long evening for you, but a little bit on who ORMAT is, geothermal energy in the Imperial Valley, the geothermal technologies that are used in the Imperial Valley, the benefits of geothermal energy, and a quick summary on what we've been doing with your staff. Just a disclaimer, ORMAT is a publicly traded company. We are on the New York Stock Exchange under ORA, and so anything that I say may be publicly on our website as well. ORMAT's actually a 45-year-old company, and we've been here in the Valley about 20 years. We are probably one of the largest geothermal companies in the world. We own and operate over 500 megawatts around the world, and we actually supply about 1,300 megawatts in 24 countries. We have actually been supplying almost all the equipment worldwide since the turn of the century, and we currently have leases in the United States of over 270,000 acres, and we employ 1,000 people worldwide and 470 in the United States. I've been in the geothermal industry almost 30 years, and ORMAT is the only vertically integrated geothermal company, and that means we basically can do it all. We have a resource group of geologists, we have landmen, we have a permitting group, we do our own financing, we do our own design and engineering, we manufacture our own equipment. A couple of years ago, when we couldn't get drilling rigs, when the price of oil was high, we bought our own drilling rigs. And actually that company's based out of Brawley called Geodrill. So we have a complete shop, and we also develop projects for other companies as well. Just to kind of show you where we're located, geothermal is primarily in the western United States, but we have projects around the world. Guatemala, that project was actually recently impacted by the volcano that erupted down there and was shut down for a few days, and then also a hurricane. Nicaragua, Kenya, just a few of our projects around the world. Let me just keep going. So the Imperial Valley, you're all very aware of the fault system in the Imperial Valley, and geologically speaking, that's where we find geothermal, active faults, active volcanoes, and ORMAT operates the project at Ormesa, which is just east of Holtville. It's all on BLM land. The project here in just south of the town of Heber on pretty much along Dogwood Road, and then our newest project just north of the city of Brawley. The Heber 1 project actually came online in the late 80s and is a flash project, and then when ORMAT picked up this project about 8 years ago, we actually added the ORMAT system to it to improve output. The Heber 2 project was built in 1992. It's the one on Dogwood Road, and we actually then added additional equipment to it to get more generation out of it. So in summary, Heber 1, which is a flash plant again, and then everything else uses ORMAT technology, generates just shy of 100 megawatts of electricity. In the Imperial Valley, you have resources that go from very, very hot water, no steam-dominated resources like the geysers in Northern California, very, very hot water to low to moderate temperature resources. And so the plants that exist here in the Valley primarily today that Cal Energy has developed and that have been here since the 80s are flash systems. So in that type of system, we take the hot water, a portion of that hot water is splashed to steam. The steam turns a steam turbine, and then it's condensed, and that geothermal fluid is then used in the cooling tower as part of the power plant system. The ORMAT technology, we actually use moderate temperature geothermal resources, so 300 degrees Fahrenheit, and the difference is in this resort is we're basically a heat exchanger system, not completely just like a refrigerator, but what we're doing, it's a completely closed loop system. We take the hot water, hot geothermal fluids out of the ground, and we transfer that heat to what's called a motive fluid. In this case, it's isopentane, and it's a hydrocarbon that has a boiling temperature of 85 degrees Fahrenheit. So what we do is we boil that isopentane, it vaporizes, and it's the isopentane that turns the turbine, not the steam as in a flash plant. And then that pentane is condensed, again using a cooling tower, but the brine is completely returned to the reservoir. There's no use of the geothermal fluid in the system. In the geothermal system using binary, because of the meteorological conditions in the valley, we have to have a water supply. And historically, this water supply has come from the IID from the canal system here in the valley, and that's true for our projects that have been here over 20 years. Again, because the ORMAT system is called binary, closed loop system, there's basically 3 closed loop systems: the geothermal fluid, the pentane system, and then the cooling water. But the advantage of the system is that you're not utilizing any of the geothermal resource. You're putting it all back into the resource for recharge. And again, as I talked about, some areas of the country we can do dry cooling, not unlike the radiator on your car. But here in the valley, the conditions are so extreme it would impact the output of the plant on days like today. Okay, so we currently have 3 power facilities that I talked about. We have, so by the end of this year, we'll have 210 megawatts in operation, and we have another 100 in development right now that are in the permitting phase through Imperial County. So over the last year, I've been working with city staff, and what we're doing is we're looking for other alternatives to water for our cooling towers besides using the canal water, which is 97% of the canal water goes to agriculture, and then the other 3% goes to agriculture and municipalities. And California Water Code actually supports the use of recycled water for use in an industrial setting. Your city currently discharges about 2.8 million gallons a day of secondarily treated effluent into the New River under a National Pollution Discharge Elimination System permit, NPDES permit, under the California Regional Water Quality Control Board. The permit is currently for 4.3 million gallons a day, and they have plans to upgrade to 6.5 million gallons a day. And just to give you an idea, 2.8 million gallons a day is about 8,000 acre feet of water, and one of our projects requires somewhere between about 6,000 acre feet of water. So we have a couple ideas that we proposed in basically an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, which would be to prepare the preliminary conceptual designs and obtain the permits to build a project and a pipeline to take water to our Heber complex. And one of the key parts of this is that under California law, it requires tertiary treated water to use in a cooling tower. So we would have to upgrade your facility from secondary treated to tertiary treated water. With the city of Brawley that you've probably read about in the newspaper, we've actually, because no one here in the valley is currently required to go to tertiary treatment, is we've offered to build their tertiary treatment facility and then basically to pay O&M on the tertiary part of the treatment plant. So that's basically the price of the water is the O&M. We have a couple ideas we've been bouncing around with your staff. One would be similar to the city of Brawley, where we would pay for a tertiary treated facility and then pay the O&M on that facility. Another idea is, because your staff is bouncing around a lot of creative ideas of working with using tertiary treated water, you can do what's called purple pipe, where you can use recycled water for watering golf courses or lawns or other facilities that the valley doesn't really have yet, but there's a lot of opportunities down the road to use recycled water. So the idea is, well, maybe we would only take what you currently discharge, and then as the city and the community grows and you discharge additional water, is that water would be available then for your other projects along the New River or whatever else you might have planned for islands in the streets or school playgrounds or whatever. So there's a lot of different ideas, and I think as water demand in the West truly becomes critical, that the use of water is going to be more important. So what we're working with is the MOU would basically be to, not a binding agreement, but just an exclusivity agreement for the city to negotiate with ORMAT for us to look at the feasibility of building a facility, what's the engineering, what's the cost, and negotiating either a project development and operations agreement or a recycled water delivery agreement, depending on if the city would want to build the facility itself or we'd want ORMAT to build it. If, like the city of Brawley, we're planning to build it and then transfer it to the city of Brawley, so they would own and operate the facility. We would just pay the cost of it. So under CEQA, we propose that the city would act as the lead agency. The city would be involved in the design of the project. ORMAT would be involved in the design of the pipeline to take the water up to our Heber facilities. And, but again, the MOU that we're proposing right now that we would like to move forward with the city would not be legally binding or enforceable contract between the parties. It would just be an agreement to move forward on the conceptual design and towards other definitive agreements. We're ready to move forward as soon as you are, and I know the earthquakes down here kind of brought everything we were working on to a halt, but I'm glad that we're moving forward. We're ready to move forward with the city as soon as you're ready to move forward if you're interested in the concept and the idea of using some recycled water to support geothermal energy development in the valley. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody have any questions regarding, at this point? Is our wastewater treatment plant, Mr. Carrillo is several years old, and Mr. Estrada, maybe I should be asking you that question. How much is this a necessity? And if so, what are the next steps?
I will continue negotiating with ORMAT regarding that. That's all we,
That's all we have at this point?
Yes.
Okay. Because our wastewater treatment plant suffered severe damage, did it not?
Well, this will be a completely different treatment plant, the tertiary treatment. Right. We have the design to do the upgrades on the current wastewater treatment plant. So we'll take care of that. But this is additional treatment. And whatever it is that we decide that they build it, we operate it, and that's something we just need to...
Have any sites been designated as to where it would go?
It would be at the same site.
It would be at the same site?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you very much, Ms. Wardlow. Where'd you go? Thank you. Yeah. At this point, I'd like to move on with the agenda. I believe announcements or public comments have been made.
Yes, yes.
And now we're moving on to the consent calendar.
Yes.
I entertain a motion. Is there anyone that wants to make a motion to approve the consent calendar or pull items?
Mayor, I would like to pull items 6 and 7.
Okay.
And if there are no other items to be pulled, I'll motion for 1 through 5.
Which one? What?
6 and 7.
6 and 7.
Motion to 1 through 5 and 8 through 12.
Yes.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the consent calendar. Is there a second?
I second it.
Seconded by Mr. Hodge. All those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
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 I'm sorry. I just have a question with regard to items 8 and 10.
Okay, you want to pull 8 and 10?
You want to pull?
Go ahead and pull 8 and 10 then.
8 and 10.
Do you want to revise your motion, Mr. Romero?
Yes, 1 through 5, 9, 11, and 12.
And seconded by Mr. Hodge.
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. Item number 6 is the first item. Adopt an ordinance by the title only. Towing services, section 10.58.050 of the municipal code regarding granting franchise agreements for towing services within the city of Calexico.
Okay, I guess this is for Chief Newjarn. This ordinance is to permit this one towing company from a few weeks ago to be included into the franchise agreements.
No, this is a second reading on the ordinance that's going to expand the ordinance from the city limits to the sphere of influence.
Right. Now, I just want to get it confirmed is that the Calexico Police Department will continue to have a form of presence at this towing facility to make sure that they are meeting all the guidelines set by the franchise agreement.
Correct.
And they're going to have an open door policy about periodic inspections.
Right.
All right. Yes. Then, Mayor, I'll go ahead and motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Romero, second by Castro. All those in favor respond by saying aye.
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 Opposed? None. Motion carries. Item number 7, the Volunteer Policy and Procedure Manual.
This is, and I know this, I guess this is more for, well, without doubt, is regarding volunteers coming in and probably more directed towards youth. I'm going to say it's probably more towards youth. But again, it's an issue of people working under the umbrella of the city of Calexico. There is no comments here regarding if, and unfortunately, that's the way the real life is. There's no comments here regarding if the applicants would have any history that the city of Calexico should have any concern with. And I would like for this to be a condition that it does have it in order for this volunteer program to be approved as part of its volunteer manual.
Anyone else? Would it be prudent to perhaps maybe require fingerprints? Is that what you're asking?
Well, it gives the option. It doesn't say that it will. It gives the option depending on the program. Now, as far as the fingerprints, I don't know if we really need to go into that area unless it's of a very high security issue. But as far as for anybody to come in and work, even on a volunteer basis under the umbrella of the city of Calexico, I believe it is necessary to know the history of this person. And that's not in the application, and if it is, I did not pick up on it.
If it's not in the application, Mr. Romero, we can make sure that the application is revised or amended that would allow the city to ask for background checks.
Yes.
Criminal history, whatever, particularly if they're going to be working with children or in recreation.
Yes.
Or with the youth, et cetera. And the same criteria would be applied to city applications as well, future applications.
Excellent.
The one caveat I want to make is for juveniles, because we're allowing volunteers 12 to 17. We wanted to do some further research related to the extent of criminal background that you can do with those. So if you're going to approve it with the provision that you add the background check section, we just want to have some leeway so that if we find out from a legal perspective we can't be asking this of the minors, then we would like to be able to go ahead and make that change.
Usually minors who have committed crimes are required to do community service hours as part of their either probation or what have you. So that might be something that, you know.
Well, we'll do the research and be able to wordsmith it so that it's appropriate and conducive to providing the necessary protection for the safety and welfare of our youth and our citizens here in Calexico.
Let me understand, are we going to include fingerprinting? No?
No, not necessarily, just a background.
And who would pay for that anyway, the fingerprinting?
Well,
it's
probably
I don't even know.
That's volunteering.
I don't even know
That
there's
would be a
a
real
fingerprint
turnoff. They
issue.
wouldn't want to
I
volunteer.
don't know if we have such high security.
No, I understand
issues here in the
that.
city.
That's a good point. You know, you want a background check,
Yeah.
but if we make it too difficult or cumbersome,
No, the
but it
fingerprint,
depends
no.
on the positions too.
Right.
Okay.
So with that condition, with that provision, inclusion, what so have you, yes, Chief?
Just real quick, just so you know, yeah, if we're going to do a background check for a person that's going to be involved with juveniles, it's automatically free. There is no charge on that.
Okay, good.
From the state of California or anyone else.
Okay, so with that provision, I would motion for its approval on that condition.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Castro. All those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. Item number 8, I believe is the next item.
It's number 8 and number 10.
8 and 10.
Number 8, authorize city manager to sign agreements with the training agencies IVC Workability 3 Program, IVC Work Study, IVROP Project ACE, SER, Senior Community Service. Ms. Hurtado.
And number 10.
No, you asked for 8 and 10.
One at a time?
Yeah, go ahead one at a time. You had a question on that?
Similar question.
Oh, okay.
Considering that we've laid off part-timers, and when I saw this item, my first question was, is that in conflict renewing a contract for this type of employee?
Oh, under these programs.
Right.
Well, in essence, this is an ongoing program, training program with the following training agencies: IVC Workability 3 Program, IVC Work Study, IVROP Project ACE, and the SER Senior Community Service Program, where they provide 65% of the costs. There's not a fiscal impact in the sense that The work-study program pays 65% to 100% of the trainee's salary, then all the other programs will cover the trainee's salary 100%. Those departments, like the library or the community center or the police department for the traffic controllers that we receive from IVC, once the fall semester begins, those are the employees that were laid off or given the temporary layoff because of a lack of funds in the general fund. But once the semester starts at IVC, the city will get their funding to be able to pay them. So those are part-time employees that are being used through the IVC work-study program.
The concern is that these program employees not be replacing any of those employees that have been terminated or laid off.
Well, this is if I'm not mistaken, this is free to the city. There's
Pretty
no
much,
cost to
yes.
the city.
Didn't you just say 65%?
65% to 100% of the costs are borne by the programs.
And what about the difference?
The difference, some of those departments have allocated funding for that. For example, like if you look at item number 10 or number 9, the library has budgeted $4,400 to continue their 5th year of service with live homework help services. This is a tutorial service, online tutoring program, one-on-one for students of all ages. It has 3 centers: a student center, grades K through 12, a college center, and an adult education center as well.
Can some of the persons that were dismissed be eligible for any of these programs?
If they're enrolled at IVC, for example.
Okay, what would be the conditions for them to be eligible?
Well, one, it's financial aid,
Okay.
and the amount that they qualify for is based on their financial need. IVROP, Project ACE, for example, is a foster child or student assistance that's being provided by the IVROP, Regional Occupational Program. So it's giving those foster kids that are high school age or community college age, less than 21, an opportunity to work and be trained with a public agency. So if those displaced workers that we laid off come under that criteria and apply, that would be considered. But otherwise, it's the students that from Calexico that are at IVC that are the job placement brings them to Calexico.
I would say if you could at least give them that information for them to consider if they want to pursue, if they would be eligible for that.
Okay, we can certainly inquire.
Yeah.
What positions do they normally hold? It's the traffic controllers?
It
Mainly?
varies. I mean, they can provide assistance at the library or at the community center or working with the police department as traffic controllers or where there's a need, or even working in City Hall if necessary.
I was just a little concerned in reading the work-study contract agreement. It says here under 3A that the student shall not displace or supplant employed workers or positions budgeted for regular employees, and that just kind of concerned me a little. Just, I guess, a question for Jennifer, just to make sure we're not.
Well, the intent would be to supplement, not to supplant.
Excuse me, say that again?
The intent would be to supplement the existing workforce.
Okay.
Or
That's why I
work
just
that
wanna
needs
make
to be
sure
done,
we're
not
not-
to supplant it, not to
supplant
replace
it.
them.
We're not using these
Yeah.
program employees in the place of the other individuals who have lost their jobs. I guess that's what I'm trying to ask.
Go ahead, Ms.
Guerrero, go ahead. Good evening, Rosalind Guerrero, Human Resources. All these programs are on-the-job training. These are students anywhere from the age of 15 to 18, and then we also have the adults from 18 on up to senior citizens. And again, I stress on-the-job training. These people have signed up for programs either because they're low income or because they're attending IVC. And so depending on the program, they're 100% free to the city of Calexico. And when we accept these persons for the training, we are accepting to train them how to work in an office, for example, or how to work in the different projects and programs that we have, like the library, the community center. Sometimes they will even provide someone who can work out in either the utilities or the public works area, such as the parks, etc. So again, this is a training program. We might get someone who is required to work, has probably never worked before, come into City Hall. We will teach him how to answer the phone, how to greet the public, how to use the different software programs that we have. And so again, every year these programs receive federal funding or state funding, and so we get requests to be able to place them. We're not able to place a lot of them, but we do work with the departments and ask, do you need someone that could help you either with filing, answering the phone, greeting the public, or doing some type of work, but they will be trained.
Okay. Rosalind, may I? What's the proper name for the people that control Imperial Avenue and the traffic
controllers.
And how many have we laid off? Have we laid all of them off? I don't have that paper in front of me.
I don't have the numbers. I believe the chief might have the numbers on how many traffic controllers we laid off.
Six out of 6. And so now we're not going to have them. These young people are going to be trained for that.
That's a little bit different. The IVC Work Study program that provides the traffic controllers, that program, once it's funded again in September, will allow us to bring back 6 traffic controllers or more. And this is one of the programs where where the IVC pays either 65% or 100% of the program.
It will allow us to bring back the people that we laid off?
No.
Is that what I understand?
My understanding is that the work study program will provide traffic controllers for us in September that the city can use. Now, whether we're going to rehire these people that were laid off, I can't answer that, because they need to qualify through the program in order to be eligible for the work study program through IVC, Imperial Valley College.
I just want to make sure we don't, like Councilman Hurtado pointed out, we don't supplant the labor of the people that we laid off. I mean, bless these young people, but they're under training. They don't know what they're doing. We need experienced people, and it bothers me that we don't have people down on Imperial Avenue conducting traffic. I think that's a real public safety and a real need, so I hope we try as much as we can to bring those people back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Guerrero.
I do have one question. Is there a timeline for when this has to be approved, this agreement?
No, there is no timeline.
So we're not under a specific date?
No, I believe, though, the only one that might be a problem would be the summer school program, and I believe that's the YES program that is only during the summer. However, IVC Workability, the IVC Work Study, that's during the school year, which would be September through May. It is a policy decision. If your choice is not to use any of these programs, we don't have to use them. What this does, again, is provide us the opportunity to train people going into the workforce.
I've used that program at my business year after year, and I think it's a great program. It's just, right now, it's just awkward.
I wanted to add exactly that, Maritza. We have used these programs for years and years and years. As a matter of fact, the people that are in the traffic control program, the parking enforcement, most all of them have come from this program.
Okay.
They're entered as trainees. They went through and worked through this program. And later on, when job openings did come up, they were hired, obviously, because they had experience. So I think 90% of the people we have in the program have come from these, and we have used these for 20 years. So it's not something new. This is something that's renewed annually.
But what's different now is the fact that we're laying off that specific, we keep talking about the traffic controllers, And like you said, you trained them through that program. They ended up being somewhat permanent or temporary, permanent, whatever, employees, and now we're letting those go to bring back a fresh new group. I just want to make sure that's okay legally.
I wasn't provided these contracts for review. I would suggest that the council maybe continue the matter until August 3rd so that some of the provisions of these contracts can be discussed with staff related to the recent decision. So, I mean, if there's one that needs to be approved tonight, if you can point out which agreement that is, because there were like 4 agreements in this agenda item.
Project ACE. The youth program, this is the one.
Is that the one-page agreement? I can't tell which agreement that is.
Rosalind, do you think you can wait for the August 3rd meeting? August 3rd, 2nd? 3rd.
The one that I was referring to is the IVROP work experience looking for summer employees. These are the project youth jobs. It's for 220 hours, ages 14 to 17. And this may be the one that is for the summer. However, I can find out if waiting until August the 3rd meeting would not create a problem.
I believe that the IVROP students, those are 100% free? I believe so.
Yes, they are.
Is it that one-page agreement, Roz? I don't see one that calls out
It's a one-page
ACE.
agreement.
Okay.
It's Imperial Valley Regional Occupational Program, Public-Private Sector Training Agreement. And it's a one-page. And in the back it has a flyer on the program.
So you're suggesting we approve that one and continue the other 3?
Well, what types of employees are you going to have under this particular?
14 to 17 years of age, I believe.
What positions? Are they going to be filling any of the positions that were laid off?
Well, usually what we do is that we will contact the departments and ask them if they need any type of assistance. Like I mentioned, the clerical, filing, answering the phone, possibly doing some typing. But it would be up to the department to let us know what type of assistance they need, and then we try to match the person who's volunteering or going through this training program to that department.
I can't imagine a 14 or 17-year-old replacing anybody else. And I would think that it would be okay to approve that one. As far as the other issue, your concern about replacing staffing that have been, what's the term they use, displaced? In some manner, this is an opportunity for the city to help bring in, has a resource to bring in people to help. One of the things that they're not coming here to replace anybody, they're just coming in to help. And once the opportunity if the opportunity comes up before the end of the fiscal year, to bring somebody back or more than one back, then I'm sure that would be done in a responsible manner. So I don't see these programs, in a sense, competing for the jobs that are who have been displaced.
The youth program in particular?
The youth program in particular.
Okay. So motion to
continue.
To continue with regard to all
Approve that one, the youth program, and
all
stay
contracts
on those.
other than the IVROP youth.
All right, so you want to approve the Imperial Valley Regional Occupational Program Project ACE Youth Program, and then continue the other 3 till August 3rd. Is that the wishes of the council?
Is that the
Yes.
one? Is that the one?
Yes.
ACE?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's your motion.
Is it a motion by
Yes.
you?
Yes.
Second.
Second by Mr. Romero. All those in favor respond by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries. We will continue the other 3 ones and then approve the Project ACE. And then there was item number 10, Ms. Hurtado.
Oh, same,
Same concern?
yeah.
In the SER, Senior Community Employment.
Are those employees free?
Same question?
Here? Okay, so then since it's the same concept, then we should be fine.
Places senior citizens in public agencies.
I hope.
In this particular case, we use the senior citizens for literacy tutoring, and we don't have any employees who tutor.
Okay.
And we also use them as assistants for just general work, but they're just helping out. They're really not doing any job that anybody else could have been doing. So it's up to you.
It's your item.
Motion to go ahead and accept that item.
Your motion?
I'm sorry?
Motion to allow that item?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second by Mr. Romero. All those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. Item number 11, which is the,
No, 11 was,
It wasn't.
that was already approved.
Wasn't pulled.
I'm sorry,
We go to the next section.
11, okay. Did we have someone speak on that one, the New River?
Yeah. 11.
No?
That was approved.
That was approved, okay.
Okay.
So, item number 13,
Public hearing.
public hearings. Consider adopting an ordinance approving a development agreement between the City of Calexico and Raul Alice Estrada for real property within the City of Calexico. Staff recommends hold hearing, receive input, and adopt ordinance by title only, waive full reading of the ordinance. And that is item number 13. Could we have some background on this item? Mr. Villa?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Armando Villa, Assistant City Manager and Director of Development. The request before you is in the form of an ordinance. It is a development agreement, in the form of a development agreement for property that is located on the northwest corner of Scaroni Road and Robinson Avenue, just north of Applebee's. It includes all the 33 acres plus of land minus the, I believe, the 3-acre parcel of land where the old radio station used to be. So it's all that area. And essentially, this is a development agreement that would have a life of 15 years. And what the applicant or the Estradas are requesting is that the city entertain this development agreement to grant development rights to the property. They want to be able to develop a commercial highway zoning type of development. And this development agreement would actually decrease their economic risk for that future investment. And what they want, they would like to be able to have certain development rights for the next 15 years, which include having the certainty that the city will be there to help them along with the project. When they do have a project, they'd like to be able to have reservation of wastewater capacity. And essentially, all this could be done in the form of a development agreement as allowed by state law. This item was presented to the Planning Commission at their June 28th Planning Commission meeting, and the Planning Commission did actually adopt a resolution recommending to the council adoption. So this is again something that's permitted by law, and it's in the form of a development agreement and ordinance request. And I believe this is a public hearing, so we need to open up a public hearing, and I believe representatives from the Estrada family are here as well. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Villa. At this point, we'd like to open the public hearing at 8:10. Anyone in favor of this project, please step forward to one of the podiums. State your name and address for the record, please. We have Mr. McClendon.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. My name is John McClendon. I'm the attorney for Mr. and Mrs. Estrada. Your staff and city attorney have done an excellent job of putting this package together and putting together the agreement. As Mr. Villa said, the agreement merely just doesn't change anything, doesn't create anything to be developed. It just merely sets in place and fixes for a defined period of 15 years the right to develop that property at the current existing zoning and land use designation. You'd have had this a couple of months sooner. Not your staff's fault. They were on the spot. I had a little illness that delayed that. I apologize for that. I'd be happy to answer any questions whatsoever that you have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in favor of this project? Seeing that there is none, now we go to the other side. Anyone not in favor of this project, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. Seeing that there is none who are not in favor, we'll bring it back to our panel up here. Does anybody have any questions regarding this ordinance between Mr. and Mrs. Estrada and the City of Calexico and that property?
Mayor, I don't have any questions. I think whatever needed to be done or discussed between Mr. McClendon and staff, I believe after reviewing the support documentation that everything appears to be in order.
Okay. Commercial highway was a zoning, right? And that's consistent with the general plan and everything is looking good. Okay. So is there a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Romero, second by Mr. Hodge.
I do need to point out there is one typo on page 205 of the ordinance where it's under section 2. It still has the Planning Commission hereby finds. It should be the City Council. So I would just ask that your motion to approve or introduce the ordinance include that change to City Council.
So changed.
Changed and seconded?
Second.
All those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries.
And I do need to read the title of the ordinance. It's an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Calexico approving a development agreement between the City of Calexico and Raul and Alice Estrada for real property within the City of Calexico. And the final adoption will be brought back for the August 3rd council meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Lyon. Thank you, Mr. McClendon. Item number 14, which is the zoning ordinance text amendment number 2009-02, sign ordinance update. Staff recommends hold public hearing and allow input. If council chooses, A, adopt city council resolution approving negative declaration for 2009-12, or adopt ordinance repealing various sections of municipal code pertaining to signs and replacing them with a new updated sign ordinance, zoning ordinance text amendment number 2009-02. I know this has been in the books for a while. Mr. Villa, if you could give us some background.
Yes, finally. Mr. Mayor and members of the council, if you give me a minute here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Anyways, the item before you is we're requesting that you take two actions. One is adoption of a resolution that would actually certify the environmental work that was done as part of this zoning text amendment. And the other one would be a request for adoption of an ordinance that would repeal various sections of the municipal code, all those sections in the municipal code that deal with signs. And what we've attempted to do is to comprehensively put all those sections into one section now to develop a comprehensive sign ordinance. And this sign ordinance would be something that would be applied and implemented citywide for every business, for everything that needs a sign. We're proposing in the ordinance to have an opportunity for everybody to have signage, what I call signage opportunities for people in residential zones and commercial zones and industrial zones, open space. This project has been in the works for the last several years, and page 4 of your agenda item staff report you can get the feel for what we needed to do to bring this project to today. This project was began in December of 2007 by the City Council, given staff direction to go back and revisit this issue with the Planning Commission, with various groups, and they directed us to begin what I call a very extensive public outreach process. We've had over 13 meetings, combination of Planning Commission meetings, combination of public workshops, and this item in its final version came before the City Council in March of this year, and it was kicked back to the Planning Commission. And the reason why we're here today, besides the entire ordinance, is that there was a policy that staff was proposing to recommend to the council for adoption, and that dealt with billboards. In the body of the ordinance, staff was proposing a policy that would prohibit billboards in the city, being that billboards are off-site. It's a form of off-site advertising, and it was felt that these type of signs essentially encourage advertising items or businesses outside of the city. So we were proposing to ban them in the city altogether. At the suggestion of the City Council at the March 3rd meeting, they wanted us to go back and analyze what it would be like to have alternatives, to allow these billboards at intervals, and we did. In your staff report, you're going to see a couple of maps, 3 maps. And what we did is we inventory the existing billboards in town, in the city limits. And what we did is we drew rings. We drew quarter-mile distance from each other. Okay. At a quarter mile, an eighth of a mile, and a half a mile, to show you that there was an ability for the City Council to say, if you wanted to allow billboards, you could allow them at a certain interval of requirements. The first one was eighth of a mile, a little less restrictive, quarter of a mile, more restrictive, and then half of a mile, which would be very restrictive, as opposed to not allowing them at all. And when we took this project to the Planning Commission felt, or was of the opinion, that perhaps if the City Council was of the opinion to allow these billboards, that they could go with a quarter of a mile radius or distance requirements. And that's the way the ordinance is proposed today. If I can direct you to page 9 of 32 of the ordinance.
What page?
On top
9
of
of 32?
9 of 32 of the proposed ordinance. We are proposing now that at the recommendation of the council, or direction of the council and recommendation of the Planning Commission, to allow billboards with the provision that they go through the conditional use permit process, which is a discretionary Planning Commission approval, that they only be located in commercial and industrial zones, that they be within a business activity or within 1,000 feet of a business activity, quarter-mile radius of each other, and that not be within 300 feet distance from another billboard or from another legally permitted sign, and that they go through the conditional use permit process, and they also be located in parcels of land that are larger than 2 acres. The commission at that time felt that perhaps because of the size and scale of these things, they need to be in an area that's big enough. And what that does is it essentially eliminates, with the exception of one parcel, all the possibilities to allow billboards south of Imperial Avenue along 111.
With the billboards that we have currently in place, are they in compliance with this ordinance?
Well, if the council is of the opinion to allow billboards, then they will be. If the council says no billboards, we're going to go back to what we had before and approve the billboard policy to not allow them, and then we would have approximately 7 signs that would fall under a legal non-conforming status. And we do have a provision to deal with the legal non-conforming signs.
What is the process of putting a billboard up? You got to pay fees for the city. Could you explain that?
Today, a billboard proponent would have to go through a conditional use permit and go through that process, pay their fees, and go before the planning commission. The planning commission would then analyze the aesthetics of the billboard and the placement and the scale of it versus or against the location of where they're proposing it. Out of the 7 billboards the city has contemplated, the 7 have gotten approved.
Okay. This is a public hearing for item number 14.
Yes, and Mr. Mayor.
Yes,
to
I'm sorry,
conclude
were
my
you finished?
presentation, again, this is a comprehensive overhaul of the sign regulation citywide. This would only apply citywide. And the other important provision is that a lot of the signs in the city are going to fall under a legal non-conforming status. It doesn't mean we're going to go tomorrow and start taking them down. The law allows us to go 2 routes. One is to go and begin a process to amortize and actually pay the people the money they invested on the signs, or they allow us to say, you know what, for the next 15 years, you can have your sign. It'll be non-conforming, but in 15 years, you have to take it down, and that's a different process. And we chose to propose this to the council because this would be the least expensive process and the least, what I would call more politically acceptable, to allow those business owners to have an illegal sign or a legal non-conforming sign, to have 15 years of life, don't worry about it for the next 15 years. But eventually the day will come when you have to comply, and that is the other important part of the ordinance. I feel that this ordinance is going to help the city improve the aesthetic quality of the city. All you need to do is drive up and down in Pearl Avenue, and you're going to see the results of not having appropriate regulation. You have signs on top of a sign hanging over the sign. That's the result of not having this type of thing. So, although this is not a quick fix, this has to be implemented, and I think we're going to start showing results year 3, year 4, and in the next 10 years, you're going to see the actual results of this. So with that is again 2 actions: the resolution for the environmental work and an action for the ordinance. And this is a public hearing, so we have to take public testimony. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Villa. At this point, I'd like to open the public hearing at 8:24 for the zoning ordinance text amendment 2009-02. Anyone in favor of this item, please come forward to the podium. State your name and address for the record. Seeing that there is none, anyone who is not in favor of zoning ordinance text amendment 09-02, please come forward. State your name and address for the record. Okay, seeing that there's none, we'll close up public hearing at 8:25 and bring it back. Does anyone have any questions from the panel? Mr. Hodge?
There are 2 components to this, Mr. Villa? 2 components?
Yeah.
Billboards and signs? Or, no, what's the first?
This is to approve the negative declaration.
Okay,
and
that I
to
understand.
repeal the various sections of the municipal code already that are in place.
Signs and billboards, are they the same or different, sir?
When I said 2 components, it's in order for you to approve this thing, you would have to approve
both
the environmental work that was done as part of it. So it's a resolution and an ordinance. The last thing is, there really isn't they're both signs. What's different is one is an on-premise sign and the other one is an off-premise sign. When you have an on-premise sign, let's say you have a store and you want to put a sign in front of your store, that's an on-premise sign. Billboards fall under this category that you can basically go 2 miles away and put up a sign that advertises your business. That's an off-premise sign. A lot of A lot of cities frown on that because there really isn't any way to control what they advertise, and even if they advertise things in the city. So that's kind of the argument against signs, that they can advertise.
Well, we have one
things and
right
also-
now that advertises an event at one of the casinos east of us, which isn't family friendly.
But that's my concern. I like the idea about cleaning up the clutter of the signs, especially down Imperial, and making it aesthetically, improving on it aesthetically. But I am concerned about the issue about billboards, and then, the First Amendment right, they have a right to put up whatever they want. And I'm concerned about, we're losing money here in the city, and if we have a big, beautiful billboard in smack dab in the middle of Calexico that says, go shop at the mall, not good for us.
Well,
so it's all one package. We have to.
You can take components of the ordinance and tweak them. What we presented to you originally in March was a policy to not allow billboards, and it's legal. The business and profession codes allows you to create a policy to
not
ban
allow
it.
billboards.
Yeah. That wasn't accepted back then. They wanted us to come back and study the possibility of coming up with more creative ways to allow them. And this is what we've done. We showed
Creative
you-
ways is fine, but I am concerned about the content, the advertising. I don't want it to go against business in Calexico.
You can't control that.
Well, we can if we don't have billboards.
Right. I mean, you can legally prohibit billboards as part of your sign ordinance. You cannot control the content
Right.
of what is
So
on the
that's
sign.
why I say it's no billboards in the city. But what I'm saying is, the first part we can agree on, but can we tweak that other part, the ordinance about billboards, right?
You can do anything you want right now.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments on this item? Thank you, Mr. Villa, for that presentation. All right, at this time, I'd like to entertain a motion for item 14, zoning ordinance text amendment. Either to adopt a city council resolution approving the negative declaration, adopt the motion to adopt the ordinance repealing various sections of the municipal code pertaining to signs and replace them with a new updated sign ordinance. Is there a motion to approve?
Would this be appropriate to call on some of the planning commissioners?
I believe the planning commission approved this in June, did they?
Yes. But it's still a question if they had any concerns, even though it was approved.
I'm not sure. Mr. Carrillo, could you answer that question?
Well, from a legal standpoint, I mean, if they want to come up and speak, they're not on the planning commission. Do we have planning commissioners here?
Yes, we have Mr.
We have Mr. Lopez.
Eduardo
Mr.
Lopez.
Eduardo Lopez, Planning Commissioner. Yes, Mr. Romero, what is the question?
Even though I did see it was approved 3, 1, and 1, I think one of them was absent during this meeting.
That is correct.
Were there any concerns that the Planning Commission had, even though it approved it, as, to go forward with it?
Well, initially, we had presented the sign ordinance not allowing billboards. And you guys sent the ordinance back to us requesting that we allow billboards. So what we did is we got together and designed a way that we could make the council happy and try to make the city happy, where we would still retain control of where the signs would be placed, what we felt was an adequate distance between the signs. And so where we were more listening to direction from council than actually deciding whether we were going to have signs, billboard signs or not. So actually this direction came from council.
Do you think there was, in a manner that was agreed to within the Planning Commission, something that the city can go forward with without any form of regret?
I do believe so, because we left full control between the Planning Commission and the City Council whether or not we are going to allow this. We still have final say whether there's going to be a sign and where the sign is going to be located. Obviously, the sign has to comply to the rules, but we still have final say whether the sign will be allocated, and I believe from there you still have final say whether the sign will be allocated. So basically, we're creating an opportunity for the sign company to come and present their case, whether it's an adequate place to put a sign. So we're not closing the door completely on them, but we are putting a lot of restrictions on them. So I do feel comfortable with the way it is being presented.
And even with the concerns shared by Councilmember Hodge?
Yes, I do. I understand Mr. Hodges' concern, but because of the fact that we still have control where we will be putting a billboard sign, we can control where the sign will go. We cannot control what will be on the sign, but we have the ability. There are still places on 98, on 111, which would be north of 98, that we will still be able to put billboard signs. And the other way, we would basically close the door and say no more billboard signs no matter what. And like I say, we still have the control of where and when the sign will be placed, or if a sign will ever be placed. So like I said, I do feel comfortable with the ordinance the way it is.
With that, Mayor, thank you.
Thank you.
Planning Commissioner Eduardo Lopez. With that, Mayor, I would entertain a motion to approve.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Second. Second by Ms. Hurtado. All those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
4-1, motion carries.
That would be for the resolution. We have to have a separate motion for the actual ordinance.
Okay.
And I just want to point out 2 corrections on the ordinance is that we need to add that the public hearing was also held tonight in addition to March 2nd, and that the adoption of this ordinance will not actually occur until August 3rd. It shows July 20th on the current ordinance. So
Make those
with those
2
2 corrections, council can entertain a motion on the ordinance.
So moved.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Hurtado. This is for the repealing of the various sections of the municipal code. All those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
4-1, motion carries.
And I do need to read the title of the ordinance, and it's a long one. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Calexico repealing Chapter 15.28 and Chapter 15.30 of Title 15 and Chapter 12.14 of Title 12 in their entirety. Repealing Section 5.56.090 of Chapter 5.56 and Section 5.20.190 of Chapter 5.20 of Title 5 of the Calexico Municipal Code. Repealing Article 11 of Chapter 17.01, Section 17.01.1100 and 17.01.1110, and adding a new Article 11 of Chapter 17.01, Section 17.01.1100 to 17.01.1123 to the Calexico Municipal Code Zoning Ordinance Text Amendment Number 2009-02 pertaining to signs. Thanks.
Thank you. Good job. Mr. Hodge would like to rescind his nay vote on the first item.
First one.
Is that okay?
Yes.
So it would be 5-0 on the first one, for the record.
4-1 on the second.
And 4-1 on the second, thank you. There was
Rogers one.
been brought to my attention that item 18 be moved up before item 15, is that correct? Yeah. We don't need an approval of that, it's been approved already. Mr. Daniel Fitzgerald.
Yes, Mayor, council members. This is a procedural item and part of a common thing that happens with enterprise zones. When the state grants an enterprise zone designation, it does allow that enterprise zone to be expanded to include existing developed areas that's either adjacent to the enterprise zone or it would be non-contiguous, but where there's no commercial development within there. And that enterprise zone would be allowed to expand 15% of its current acreage, which is approximately an additional 2,500 acres that the Calexico County Enterprise Zone could expand. Earlier this year, I received a request from ORMAT, been well introduced to this evening, and to be able to expand to include their Dogwood Road facilities, which are just outside the enterprise zone, which is the plant right there on the corner of Willoughby and Dogwood, as well as their administrative facility, which is right there just barely north of there on Dogwood. The facility that's on Pittsford Road currently is in the Calexico County Enterprise Zone, and then the other facility that they requested to expand is the Oro Mesa plant. While that's a non-contiguous expansion, there is no commercial development between the eastern boundaries, which is the east port of entry, and the plant, which is just off of Interstate 8. And so each jurisdiction, in addition to the governing body, which is the Joint Powers Authority, needs to vote and pass a resolution in support of said expansion for them to submit the application to the state. These applications, they have to meet certain guidelines, certain requirements. The main one, which of course is that it continues on with job creation, and what ORMAT has indicated with the tax credit savings that they'll be receiving by being within an enterprise zone, they'll be able to create at least 10 additional jobs at these current facilities. So,
Mayor, I have a question. By considering to approve this, is it adding all the acreage between the boundaries, or is it just like an island?
It's only the island, so it's only those parcel numbers indicated in the resolution. So that acreage that's between the east port of entry and the Oro Mesa plant would be excluded.
I'll motion to approve, Mayor.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Second. Second by Ms. Hurtado. All those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item 15. Thank you, Mr. Fitzgerald. The discussion of the elimination of our parking meter program. Chief Nujar.
I will make it quick, but I can't guarantee it'll be painless. I gave you some information just so that you would kind of have it in front of you to be able to refer to. I just want to kind of give you a parking 101 real quick and bring you up to speed of what's going on. Actually in April, we stopped the parking meters, and we tried to, at that point in time, try to have some idea or some way to be able to keep hold on to the parking meters until such time as we could be able to use them. So presently we have parking facilities department. They're responsible for parking control and traffic control. When we do the parking, like the meters, the 2-hour zones, and then the traffic control, which also includes Imperial Avenue and such. The staffing right now of the parking department or parking facilities department includes 3 full-time parking enforcement officers, 1 meter clerk, and then 3 permanent part-time parking enforcement officers, 1 permanent part-time parking enforcement officer that has a frozen position, and 2 temporary part-time parking enforcement officers, also frozen. So as of right now, we have 4 full-time employees, and then in August of 2010, we'll be losing 3 permanent part-time employees. In October of 2010, our meter clerk will be retiring, which will leave ultimately 3 full-time employees only in that division. Parking enforcement takes care of the maintenance of the parking meters, the enforcement of the parking meters, and the ordinances. They also do what's called 2-hour enforcement, and that is going along with the little cars and marking the tires with chalk, and then coming around 2 hours later, looking for the chalk marks and adding them for the next go round. And then
Don't tell that to anybody, because they're gonna scrape it off.
And that happens occasionally, and you can do what you can do. And then ultimately, we have the other parking enforcement that they do citywide: abandoned vehicles, red curbs, handicapped people, such as that. So then, the city currently owns 610 parking meters. 601 of them are installed in the parking meter zone, and 9 are currently kept as replacements. The maintenance of meters, the people, parking enforcement officers, they clean them, they paint them, they occasionally take off the graffiti, and ultimately the only maintenance that the parking meters have is replacing batteries twice a year, but on 601 of them. The meter rates currently authorized by the City Council is 25 cents for an hour and 50 cents for 2 hours, and that was put into effect in 2008. Collection and counting. Meters are emptied of coins twice a week. Half of the meters are emptied on Mondays and Thursdays, and the other half are emptied on Thursdays or Tuesdays and Fridays. Because of the auditors that do the audits up for the city, we are required to have 2 people present at all times when the money is loose, such as when we collect it. In other words, when we go around in the morning and we have a little carrito, there's a little cup inside there. We have to unlock it, have to take the cup out, pour it into this box, which has a lock on it. And unfortunately, the auditors have told us that we have to have 2 people present to do that. Later on, when we bring that box back to the office for counting, we unlock the box, and as we pour the coins out to put into the coin counter, there also needs to be a second person present when we do that. Violations of currently cost $20 a piece, and the 2-hour enforcement markings are with chalk. The same thing. They mark all the cars that are on the streets and then parking lots downtown. 2 hours later, we come along and we issue the citations for those that are in violation. And again, the citation for a 2-hour violation is also $20. The processing of the citations, issued citations are delivered to the office, processed by the meter clerk. Citations are logged into the department computer so we can keep track of whether they've been paid or not been paid. Payment of parking violations is accepted at the front counter of the PD or can be deposited in the red box that are out at the curb. Citations that are not paid within 1 week are sent to a company that we have a contract with called Turbo Data. This company does citation processing. If within a week, if somebody doesn't come in and pay their parking citation, then we send them to Turbo Data. But when we send them to Turbo Data, it costs us 99 cents to process a citation. So that's 99 cents less that we receive as a result of revenues. Citations that remain unpaid after 21 days are entered into the DMV computer. And you may notice this in the event that you don't pay a parking citation and you go to renew your registration and you can't because there's a hold on it until you pay all of your parking fines. That if the citation is held to the point where it goes to DMV, it costs an additional $5 for the DMV process to be put into the computer. If you notice, I did 2007's numbers and 2009 numbers, so you'd have a kind of idea. In 2007, we charged only, what was it? Remember when we raised it? It was 2008 that we raised the
was it dime, wasn't it?
Was it? We went. I think a quarter for 2 hours. We went to a quarter for 1 hour.
Oh, that's it.
So we did it in 2008. We doubled it. So that's why you see the numbers that are kind of the same. The problem is the reason that 2009 is just about the same as the 2007 numbers is because unfortunately business dropped off. People weren't coming as often, and even though we were making more money off of the lesser people, it balanced itself out. So what we have is in the year of 2007, we issued about 15,000 citations for meter violations, and in 2009, about 13.7 or 13,700 citations for the 2-hour zone, or the parking meter violations. Now the general parking citations, 10,829 in 2007, and then 6,802 in 2009. Ultimately, we have to pay a part of the citations to the county. There's a total of $8 from every citation that goes to the county and makes its way around to the state. There's money for the jail construction fund, the courthouse construction fund, and then ultimately the last go around in 2009, the governor asked for more money to go to the courthouse construction fund. So now it's $8 for every citation. So a $20 citation, $8 comes off of that to go to the state, and so we end up with $12. If we have to send it to Turbo Data, then it's $11. So there's quite a bit of difference in monies. And as a result, the difference in the money that is now passed on to the county is much more than it used to be. And again, the numbers almost even out. Now the question comes is the expenses. According to our proposed budget for this year, without any personnel cuts, our budget in the parking meters department would be around $547,000. We estimate revenues at this point to be about $458,000, which is a bit of a shortfall. As a result of council action, the permanent part-timers as well as temporary part-timers will be cut out of that division, which will give us a savings of about $135,000. So we would end up lowering the cost of or as a result of the personnel cuts to about $423,000. Well, the difference between the estimated revenues and the pending cuts would show us in the black of about $35,000. Now the question is for $35,000, what are we gonna get for that? If we're gonna cut the personnel, we're gonna end up with 3 people that are gonna be operating the meter program. So the question would be if we continue to cut the personnel, we use the 3 people and we run the meters that way, there's not enough people to do the job. If we
Say that again?
Yeah, I know. If we leave the people in place, we won't make enough money to cover expenses. So we have to cut people. The only way that really and truly that we can make the parking department in the black is to cut all personnel. There isn't enough money there to be able to do that. So by eliminating the meters, we would eliminate obviously just about all the profit. I was hoping when I was looking at the figures that we would be able to keep people employed just based on the profit of the citations that would be issued. But we'd no longer be issuing meter citations. We would only be issuing citations for the 2-hour violations, red curb, handicap, those kinds of things. And the amount of money that from those violations will not cover all of the labor costs. So I came in here tonight with full expectations of advising you that it would be good to eliminate the parking meter program and just have a parking program where we would be enforcing the 2-hour zone to make sure that cars continue to move in and out of downtown, that we would look for the red curb violations, that we would do those kinds of things. But the problem is that the money doesn't balance out. So the question is, do we keep the meters and try to run it with short personnel, or do we eliminate the meters? And there again, we'll probably eliminate obviously some of our profit. I told you it wasn't going to be painless.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
There is no way to adapt the budget for running the meters to the revenues? Right now I don't understand how you would not be able to find.
Government. We don't run things that way.
Right. Now think outside the government now.
Yeah, the parking meter revenue. Let's take 2009 as an example. The parking meter revenue, after everything is paid out of it, was $584,000. So now the question is how many employees or operational expenses could you fit into the $584,000? This is the part that where Judy and I pull our hair out, because it fluctuates so much. As this last year, give a good example, business historically is slow in the summertime. So the council requested that the meters not be used in July and August. And then in December, again, the council was approached and chose not to use the meters for the month of December. Again, in order to be able to draw people down to downtown, to be able to use that as a way of getting people to buy. And ultimately what happens is we have salaries, we have expenses that are tied to those meters and the profits that come from them. So then comes along April, we have the earthquake, and then we haven't used the meters, I think, for ultimately throughout the whole fiscal year, about 6 months. And so it comes back to the question of how do you fit your costs into a fluctuating number.
So you're saying that if the meters were kept for the 12 months, then it should be self-sufficient?
They would very much be. That would be the question is that we'd be operating the meters with less than optimum personnel. We have the auditors who say that we always have to have 2 people present when we're going to be transporting the money. So what my suggestion would be that is to try it out, and we could have a police officer accompany them in the morning, just have one person do it and have a police officer accompany them. We could think outside the box and try to figure out ways where we would be able to keep the meters. But they may not necessarily be all the time. We might have somebody available all the time to be able to be there when the meters are.
Okay. Here's where I am at with the issue with the meters. To begin with, my first point is I'm not in favor of the elimination of the meters. One of the things that I had mentioned before, some council meetings ago, is that, and it was clarified, I believe, by Lieutenant Chalon, that the meters could be easily reprogrammed to take in even nickels and dimes.
That's correct.
Okay. While maintaining the 50 cents per hour, you could prorate it where not everybody walks around with quarters in their pockets.
You're right about that.
Okay, and it's very common to have your nickels and dimes. What I didn't understand then, and obviously it was a defeated issue, but why can't the meters be run with nickels and dimes where they only get their 3 minutes and they only get their 10 minutes and not having to pay for half an hour when they're going to be in and out in 5 minutes?
And to piggyback on that, if you charge a quarter for an hour, charge 40 cents for 2 hours. That would give them a discount. Maybe they would pay more for the 2 hours.
No.
That would be marketing.
No. I'm the guy that looks for the meter that still has time on it downtown.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying if someone's going to park for 2 hours, you would give them a discount because they're purchasing time in volume.
Okay, 75 cents for 2 hours or something like that, instead of
Let's just stick to Romero's suggestion.
Anyway. Okay, that's the one issue. So the coin sorter that you have at the police department, it can easily separate and count the monies.
Yes.
So it's not like it's going to be another burden on the staff.
The only difference would be that we have to bag them separately. But
You have to, I'm sorry?
We have to bag them separately. Right now, we use a bag about that big that takes just quarters. And so what we could do is we'd have to put dimes, nickels.
Now, with these coin sorters, don't you automatically have those sleeves where the coins go into it? And so all these would just be put into those bags?
Right.
So you just need more than one bag?
Right.
Okay.
When we ordered the meter,
I don't think that's going to be a huge issue.
When we ordered the meters and we brought the meters in, they all took all the different types of coins.
They did.
They did. And obviously, the people that were in charge of those days that chose that they would rather have just the quarters. So it changed. And so we could easily go back. It'll cost us, I think, around $300 for the mechanism that we need to make the change. And we can go back and change all the meters very easily.
But that's not a backbreaker, is it? Okay. One of the things that I have a concern with, and with all the crisis that this city is going through, and the cuts and what have you, is that if we have if we had that many less personnel looking at the meters or looking at the parkings, now we're going to have the people that we need to patrol the city also checking for parking violations, and that's our police officers. There's been some general concern by Councilmember Hodge where not to reduce or impact the police force, but in some manner we are going to impact the availability of the police force if you have them patrolling downtown for parking violations. Obviously, the other option would be is don't patrol downtown for parking violations. I would be in favor of reinstating or reinstituting the meters, using all the coins. As far as pennies, I don't know if we can have, it's not a bad idea, but then you get your meter filled really quick. There has been comments made regarding the, like for example, downtown El Centro, that they don't have any meters over there, and the situation is the same. It is not the same. Everybody talks about Calexico being unique. It is unique because El Centro doesn't have Mexicali across the street. They're not going to park in downtown El Centro and make their way to Mexicali. When the meters, when the parking of the 2 hours was taken out, business people from downtown, when I ran into, and they said, you know, why was the decision of reinstating the meters? And before I answered, I said, what is your position on it? And they were grateful that it was done, because with a 2 hour limit, with a 2 hour parking, and I saw this, is that it seems that downtown is busy, because people are parking their cars for 2 hours free of charge. They're going around, supposedly they're going around shopping, but they're not doing that. They're taking advantage and they're going to Mexicali. By re-implementing this, then these same people are going to have to, if they're going to be gone for 2 hours so they can take advantage of the discount that Mayor here proposes, you know that they're going to have to come back. And if they stay over, you're going to have violations, and you're going to have these people patrolling the meters to give out all these citations. So I don't know if, for example, potentially you could have more revenue, being that people are not going to have to, I can't park here, I got to go look for a non-meter place, because I only have dimes and nickels and I don't have any quarters on my purse. Now, let's not get into the issue of that this would be too expensive for the downtown merchants, because Measure H was passed. Now, before Measure H was passed, or before it was proposed to be passed, there was an argument made that the issue with the meters was too expensive for the shoppers for downtown. Well, it just became more expensive without the meters. The thing is that I believe that meters not only are necessary to free up our patrol officers to patrol not only downtown but other parts of the city, but I really believe it's absolutely necessary to keep, and with the condition that it be within its budget. Okay, for example, a little while ago, Daniel Marron mentioned that it brings in a lot of money. There was no doubt that it brings in a lot of money, but there's also, in the past, more expenses than there was any kind of revenue. But even if it is a little bit on the red, I think it's much more worthwhile for the city to re-implement this program, because for 50,000 or whatever the amount happens to be that could run into the red, at least we know we don't have police officers patrolling for parking violations. Mayor, my motion is not to eliminate the parking meters for the reasons that I mentioned. Thank you.
Can we still comment?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Hodge, go ahead if you want to comment.
I think that Councilman Romero makes some very important points. I definitely agree with him. I think that we should not eliminate the parking meters for the very reason that he said. I'm very, very concerned about public safety. We need more police officers patrolling the whole city, not all of them downtown, giving parking citations. And also, I consider and look at the perspective of the customer, the consumer, and also downtown business. But let's look at the consumer. I think that there's protection in the sense that we have a parking meter and we can regulate and they can see, and there's no area of arbitration or dispute about whether they deserve that citation or not. The other area, this is sort of going, is there a parking area for people that do want to spend more time over to Mexicali?
Well, that's the problem.
We should provide that for them.
We've actually been lenient in the fact that we've allowed them to use certain parking lots that never fill up. So like tourist parking, the parking lot on the farthest south side of First Street, we allow that usually without regulation, and that allows people to be able to park longer than 2 hours. And then occasionally we'll allow them to use the JCPenney parking lot behind, because again, it doesn't fill up. But technically, by ordinance, all the parking lots have a 2-hour regulation on them, as well as all the city streets downtown.
I think we should, not now maybe, but later, cement
Just to
that.
further clarify on that, the The 2-hour zone, parking zone is 1st Street through 4th Street, from Mary Street to Emerson.
So if they park farther out,
So if they
they're
park
okay.
further north of 4th Street or further east of Mary or further west of Emerson, there's not a 2-hour parking
Still
zone.
might be a hardship, especially in 150 to 15 degree heat. So I'm thinking in terms of the consumer also. Here's another issue since we're on parking. There are many merchants, or maybe not many, but some that have showed concern with me that they're working and there is no place for them to park. That particular establishment does not have any parking for their employees. So they're working and yet they're worrying about having to move their car or run out and have to put another quarter in, and hell, they don't have a quarter, so they take the ticket. And that's $20, that adds up. Is there some way that we can find out who these merchants are and accommodate them?
They can move their car.
But you got a boss that's looking over them.
The parking is not for the employers.
Excuse me?
The parking is not for the employers.
No, I know,
The
but could
parking
we
is
find,
for the customers.
but could we find spaces for employees?
We allow them to park in the city parking lots. They can buy a monthly parking permit. But again, the problem is depending on how far away you are from a city
They
parking
can
lot.
buy a monthly
whether you-
parking permit. How
Correct.
much is that, sir?
It's $19,
For the whole month?
$20 for the month.
Okay.
And several, many businesses routinely, those are the colored piece of paper that you see hanging from the mirror.
Maybe they just don't know that. Okay.
But you got to remember, and that's the problem that we have is there is very limited parking downtown. If you're parking either in front of your store, you're either taking up 1 or 2 stalls in front of your store, or you're parking it in front of the store next to you and not allowing customers to go to that store. So by having employees and actual business owners parking in the metered spaces,
I wasn't really referring
it
to
actually takes away customers
Yeah.
or spaces for the customers.
No, I was thinking maybe that there were, but you know more about that there were some small parking
we chase
areas or
those people
lots.
all the time.
Excuse me?
We chase those people all the time.
Okay, you like doing that?
Yes.
Okay.
Very good points that were brought up on this issue of the elimination of parking. I concur also with Mr. Romero that we need to look at this, perhaps vary the fees, allow nickels and dimes. We've come a long way from a penny for 12 minutes now for a quarter for an hour. So just give them. I'm sorry?
For half an hour.
No, yeah, I know, but years ago it was a penny for 12 minutes. But those days are gone.
No, you're saying a quarter for an hour.
But now it's a quarter for an hour.
It's 2 quarters.
2 quarters for an hour, well, whatever it is, 2 quarters for an hour. I think we should look at options, nickels and dimes. I think that would be good at this time. And then maybe, allow incentives like 40 cents for 2 hours instead of 50 cents. That way they, hey. Anyway, anybody else like to make a comment? You have a business downtown?
Well, I'm in favor that they stay. The movement, the ensuring that there's always that, getting everyone to understand they need to get going after the 2 hours, that's a good thing, definitely. I guess we need to discuss this a little more because since you are letting go of some of those enforcement officers, we need to look at the big picture and see how that could work out. But as far as personally being there for that long, 23 years in business downtown, I know that that's important. And I see that there are a lot of individuals, for example, on Sundays, that's where a lot of the businesses are closed, but yet we've got parking spots that are not there. They're not available. So keeping the flow going is important, definitely.
I don't want to date anybody, but when you say 12 cents for, or 12 pennies for an hour, but the meters started in 1955 and have been in operation ever since. But
Okay, that's
was
a
one
sidebar.
penny, 12 minutes.
Also.
Go ahead.
Also, right now at this point, you eliminated the meters because of the earthquake, correct? And the conditions of downtown.
we did that, and then we came to council, and council's direction was at that time was to hold off on putting the meters back until such time as the recovery period started with downtown, and then we revisit it, and that's where we are today.
So if we give direction to eliminate, to not eliminate the meters, what will be the next step?
We'll order the tool to change the meters, to make them multi-coin, and we'll have them back in operation probably by August 1st.
Good.
Now, with this discussion, if they would be re-implemented, then the issue of the personnel, that would have an impact.
That would have an impact.
So you can discuss that with the city manager.
But I would rather come back on that one, because there again, if we can find some ways to get by, at least to a certain point, and then as we need personnel, come back and ask for, and not, I want to come back and say, hey, we need 10 people, and then realize we only need 3.
Right, that's what, like I said from the very beginning, as long as you try to maintain within the revenues.
May I also
Yes.
ask that there be communication with the BID, the Business Improvement District, because they are the merchants that are in downtown and are affected, and they possibly, I know we have a couple here that can possibly give you some input. I don't know about tonight, but I think that's important too, because they are the eyes and the ears of downtown.
Absolutely.
And I know that they probably want to participate in helping you to understand what they feel. So that's probably something I would ask then, is that we involve the BID.
Excellent.
Yeah, that would be a good idea.
Well, in reference to that, if I may, Mr. Mayor, it's been an ongoing political battle over the years, and whether one city council has the political will to enforce the parking meters downtown, or here's the downtown merchant saying, remove the meters for so many months out of the year, for summer, or for the holiday season, et cetera, or remove them in their entirety. That's what has to be determined. Versus the public safety issue, you want your police officers and boots on the ground out patrolling and not issuing parking citations and what have you, that type of thing. So and the BID has, those members of downtown have said that they wanted the parking meters not being utilized at different times during the year to try to spur economic movement downtown by making downtown more attractive, because the parking is free for 2 hours, and this way they're in some way able to compete with a mall in El Centro or Walmart in Calexico because there's free parking there, that type of thing. So it's something that we'll bring back and research after researching it and provide you with the pros and cons. The backup information here, the recommendation from the police department was to eliminate the parking meters.
Because of the deficit.
And their proposed budget, their proposal was $250,000 for this year in meter revenue, and another $250,000 from 2-hour parking violations. And so we'll revisit that, but this is what this council may have to consider in the future as to if we reinstate the parking meters, that they stay over a period of time so that revenue can be generated, so then that revenue can pay the salaries of the parking meter readers, because right now it's not budgeted.
But I don't want to leave you with any deceptions. The reason that tonight I kind of changed because I saw the numbers and I saw what they really meant, and the fact that really and truly we probably can't afford right now to eliminate the meters. But I have to tell you that the reason I got on this binge of trying to get rid of them is I had lunch one day at DePoli's restaurant, and a group, obviously some men and women, families, sat next to me and not knowing who I was, and began to discuss, and I don't know why people would discuss the parking meters, but they just chose to, and they said they would rather spend the 50 cents on gasoline to go to the mall rather than put it into the parking meter. And that really hit me, because if that's a widespread perception, then we're in trouble.
What's the price of gasoline, and 50 cents will not get you to the mall?
They'll be out on the road going like this.
That's why I'm suggesting that to get some input from the BID, because those types of opinions, they hear that every day.
Yeah.
And if we run a lean ship and we have some reserves, then it wouldn't hurt us when we have these days or a month when we don't have the meters in operation. So, but I guess right now the idea is running it lean and get it going.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
I'm next one.
Is there action on this item?
No. Okay. But I'm the next one up. So.
The next one is the authorized city manager. No. sorry. Request to hire a limited-term public safety dispatcher to fill a permanent position vacancy.
As of last week, I had the unfortunate opportunity to let some people go. And one of the people that we let go was a public safety dispatcher who has worked with us since 2005. First as a part-timer, and then ultimately as a limited-term dispatcher. And the limited-term position came as a result of us having the Holtville contract, and now, of course, the Sheriff's Office has that, so we don't have that need for that limited-term position anymore. In the same period of time, we have now received a resignation from one of the permanent dispatchers. And we would like now to obviously hire this experienced dispatcher to fill the space of the permanent dispatcher that is leaving us. And I'm coming to council to request that.
Yep, I'll motion for that.
Okay, Mr. Romero?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hodge. Any discussion? All those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Chief Newjar.
Can we take a break?
You need to take a break?
We do.
Oh, wait a minute. What? Oh, you want to take a break?
We have one more item.
Just one?
Well, two.
Oh, yeah. Two.
You have the
Two more
appointments
items, yeah.
and the
Three
future
items.
agenda items.
Okay. All right. Can you hold it?
Yeah, I got my coffee can in here. It was her that was
Still
speaking up for the
recycling.
young lady.
Coffee cans for me don't work.
Okay. This is an item considering authorizing city manager and city clerk to post and publish attached request for proposal for development teams to propose to assist the city in analyzing, developing, constructing, and operating a new toll system to be established at the Calexico Mexicali Port of Entry. At this point, the staff recommends that the authorize the city manager and city clerk to post and publish the request for proposal.
Just to provide some backup information, the purpose of this coming about is as you see, the scaled version of the proposed downtown port of entry that was initiated from design to delivery in 2005. We made a trip to El Paso to witness the similarities of the border region, or the dynamics of and to learn about the dynamics of the toll bridge operations that exist in 3 of the 4 ports of entry in El Paso, Texas, and to question El Paso officials as to the efficacy of that system and what were the positive fiscal impacts in the form of revenue that was being generated to support their general fund to offset the costs that were incurred at the ports of entries involving public safety, police and fire calls, as well as the toll on our streets and sidewalks, maintaining their cleanliness, the impacts on any of the public restrooms, et cetera, et cetera. And so as a result of that, we are recommending that you authorize the city manager and the city clerk to post and publish a request for proposals for development teams to propose to assist the city in analyzing, developing, and constructing and operating a new toll system to be established at the Calexico Mexicali Port of Entry downtown. And all the improvements, if this is the direction that we go, would be paid by the successful proposer. We're not implementing any costs. This is basically for these proposers to do a cost study analysis to see if it'd be feasible to construct on city property a toll with all the amenities that would be used to provide a more pleasant crossing experience for those southbound border crossers. In El Paso, in the 3 ports of entries, both in pedestrian and vehicular crossing, it generates anywhere from $14 to $19 million annually in revenue. They have a port authority that administers that money, and the net profits are $4 to $9 million that come back to the general fund, operating fund, that are directed to address the border crossings, the border crossing issues, and the amenities to the border crossers. This is being done more frequently along the southwest border, particularly in the state of Texas. It is not being done at the ports of entries in California, but tolls are being charged coming out of Otay Mesa for Interstate 5. And tolls have been charged, well, fees have been charged for those that want to participate in Sentry to expedite their crossing, etc. So this is a proposal to the City Council to determine if there's an interest, and if there is, we'll go to the next step.
We had one person from the audience who would like to address the council, Mr. Hermosillo, former Councilman Willie Hermosillo.
Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman, council members, this city needs revenues, and you need to start thinking out of the box. You need to find ways to bring revenues in. What are you going to do next year? Fire another 40 people? How are you going to hire these people back? This city needs revenues. You need to start thinking of ways of doing it, and this is a start. Thank you.
You still have 2 more minutes. Thank you, Mr. Hermosillo. Okay, at this point, discussion from the council members?
Okay, here we go.
Here we go.
I read the, if I may, Mayor, I read the package that was delivered by Director Luis Estrada. City Manager Carrillo, you mentioned that they have 3 bridges. In reality, they have 4 bridges. They have one bridge that goes south, one bridge that comes north, and I'm talking about the flow of traffic, pedestrian and car. They have another bridge which goes north and south. Now, these 3 bridges offer the toll-free, the toll fee. There's a river between the U.S. city and the city in Mexico. So there has to be a bridge. Now, they do have tolls on those 3 bridges, but the reason they have tolls is because the bridge that is toll-free is away from the city. What they did, and it appears that what was done, is that so that people can come into downtown El Paso?
Yes.
Is that they put one bridge going one way on the east side of town, and they put the other bridge on the opposite side of town. So there could be that flow of traffic. I see that as a incentive that's sold to the public saying, look, you can either cross on that bridge, and I'm going to take as an exaggerated example, the new port of entry.
Right.
You can either cross over there free of charge and you
Right.
make your way to downtown Calexico. Now, I don't see how that it's free right now for people to enter downtown, how this could really benefit downtown. Former Councilman Hermosillo mentioned that we have to find ways to bring in revenues. I agree that we have to find ways to bring in revenues, and there is no doubt this project would be thinking outside the box. But I believe that this would be more of a disservice to downtown than it would be as a service to downtown. If this thing were to go any way forward, before this item is approved, I believe there should be more of a public workshop to get feedback from the community before we take this step. One of the things that this package contained is that there was a target date, and I'm sure it's estimated, but still you have a target date included in here of July 2011. If this is only for review, why do we already have some form of a target date? I don't see it. Let me see here. I believe that this thing should also be done, or this should also be considered once the downtown port of entry is has already been restructured, remodeled, and so have you, rebuilt, and then see if it's something that could be done at that time. Now, I'm just curious, without having any more information, because the packet did not include any plans how the city of Calexico will do this. It has plenty of information how El Paso did it, but I can see the need why El Paso did this. They have a river. They got to cross somewhere. And since the toll-free bridge is so far away, it made sense how the public would be able to accept this kind of a concept. Right now, my position is that I am not in favor of this concept today. And if it does go forward anyway, I would rather see it go into a public workshop before we approve this kind of an item.
Well, in essence, this is what this is directing, and I appreciate your comments and I respect those. In essence, we're not proposing a toll. We're not proposing the establishment of a toll booth. We're not proposing the building and financing of a toll. What we're requesting is to authorize us to post a request for proposals to potential development teams or that would do the study, that would hold the workshops, that would work with focus groups, that would receive public input, downtown input, etc., whether this is something for us to pursue further.
Why not do a public workshop?
Then if they saw that there was an interest and a desire, they would propose to the city in financing the construction and the operation of these tolls, and the city would work out an agreement where, if that was the case, for example, I'm not etching this in stone, where we would receive a portion that would come to the general fund. Currently, every time we respond to the port of entry, whether it's police or fire, we get back 6 cents on the dollar from the federal government in reimbursement. The traffic controllers that we don't have right now, that are asked to be paid by the general fund to address the impact of the vehicle traffic on Imperial Avenue that's going southbound in the late afternoons. The city's asked to pay for that, and that's an impact as a result of being on the border. We're looking at ways that we can supplement the general fund, and this is one of the opportunities to further investigate and research. And that investigation and research and analysis won't be done on the city's dime. It'll be paid by any of these potential proposers that represent these development teams. We may not have anybody that responds. And then the case is moot.
Mr. Selwick, you have the floor.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor and City Councilman, I think you're approaching this problem completely backwards. Instead of us trying to put problems in the way of people crossing the border, and as City Manager mentioned, the long lines on Imperial Avenue, that's an indication that there is a lot of commerce coming north because they have to go back south to their homes. And that's exactly the way we want things. As a matter of fact, we want things to increase even more. We want more people coming across. We want more interchange. There's a lot of difference between Calexico and Mexicali and El Paso and Ciudad Juarez. The most important thing, as far as I'm concerned, is that most of us here, Calexico is approximately 100 years old. That's 4 generations. 80% of the people here in Calexico have roots of somebody that moved to Mexicali and came across the border to live here. We're an outsource of Mexicali people that have come to reside here. These people are our relatives. They're our friends. They're our customers. They're our neighbors. And we do not want to be like Arizona. This is not Bill 1071. I believe we should not impose any restrictions on anyone crossing. Years ago, I don't know if it was in Laredo or Matamoros or another city, they had a zone where everybody could cross over and circulate in the town without any, 1 day a week, without any sort of passport at all. To me, that was an ideal situation. To impose even the slightest charge on people that are coming in to work in the fields is an abuse. We should have more gates so people can come in faster. Anyone that's gone to Mexicali and tried to come back, you have to wait an hour, sometimes 2 hours. Is this the kind of welcome we want to give to people coming into our country? Downtown is deteriorated. It's a big swap meet now. Most of the merchandise available in downtown are chucherias from $1.50 to $3 or $4. That should be an indication of the people here that are in the city council and the members of the audience, that most people coming across from Mexicali do not have a high budget.
That's right.
And the 50-cent fee is important to them. So I implore the city council to think about our relationship with Mexicali. It is not, these people are not our enemies. They're our relatives. They're our customers and they're our friends and neighbors. And we should treat them properly and welcome them.
Thank you, Mr. Selwick.
Thank you, Mr. Selwick. Absolutely correct. I concur. I believe that this is not the time to even entertain this idea. Maybe way down the line. I don't even think so on that. We are in an economic crisis. I do agree we have to find other ways of bringing in revenue. Maybe if we get our own house in order, we can save some money and bring in revenue. But to penalize, to impede traffic this way, I think it's a very bad idea. I am very concerned about the economic impact of the citizens of Mexicali and on this side of the border, because all studies indicate, or you don't even have to do studies, just talk to the people. We're of a low economic status. And so for a farm worker that crosses over here and there is no guarantee of employment that day and he pays $1, that's a whole lot of money. I think we need to give them more respect and dignity, not just the farm worker, but from everybody from Mexicali. And I agree, we ought to find other ways to open it up and make it flow and more accessible to go back and forth. I think this kind of idea right now is just shooting ourselves in the foot. And I don't believe that we are exactly or the same as El Paso. There's a lot of discrepancies. Also, it bothers me that this issue, as Councilman Romero points out, there was no public forum before this. I understand what City Manager Carrillo is saying, but I believe we should have still had public forum and discussion on this. And so again, it's an example of bad governance. No information given to the public to process, to deliberate, and then come to terms with it. So, but what I feel right now is, let's get our own house in order. I think public safety is a priority. Let's find other ways of bringing in revenue, and let's just drop this idea.
I think differently, Mr. Hodge. I think this is a study that's going to give us that information. It's not going to cost the city a dime. The impact that the border has on Calexico is unlike any other city in the valley. I also look at it as a type of marketing. Let's say someone crosses the border, shops at Mr. Selwick's store, spends $10 and gets his ticket validated to go back for free. I think there's all kinds of ideas that can come of this. If they spend that money downtown, couldn't you validate a ticket and perhaps get them a free ride back? And they're spending the money downtown. There's so many marketing ideas that can come from this. Special days that they wouldn't charge, a fee to cross the border, special fees for the farm workers. I mean, there's so many things that we can look at before we shoot this idea down. This idea needs to be studied further. We're not approving a toll crossing at this point. We're just merely looking to study the impacts on what this fee can do for the city and our shortfall that we're experiencing now. So I'm in favor of looking at this study. I'm in favor of inviting and requesting for these proposals to look at how we can improve, to think outside the box, like Mr. Hermosillo said. Because otherwise, we're going to continue with the layoffs, and we're going to continue putting people out of work. And if that's what you want to do, okay, I don't. I think we should let this idea flourish. Let's take a look at it. If we don't like it, then we don't have to vote on it. But don't stop it before it starts. I'm not saying I'm a proponent of it. I'm just saying, let's take a look at it. Mr. Lopez.
Thank you very much, Mr. Moreno, for giving this opportunity to speak. I wasn't going to get up and speak on this, but it caught my attention that we're trying to use fear in the minds of people that if you don't favor this and you don't think outside the box, like Mr. Hermosillo saying, that you're going to lose your job.
Scares tactic.
And you're trying to scare people into doing this for you. We have already supported you. We gave you Measure H. The downtown merchants supported you in Measure H. The city of Calexico, the voters of Calexico supported you with Measure H. We are doing our share to help you. But then you come and you want to burden the merchants of Calexico further. Wait, let me finish. You want to burden...
Wait a minute. We're just looking for ideas. We are not approving any toll right now.
May I finish?
Yes, you may.
Okay. I believe that if you continue on with the study, just suppress that it's going to be, the Mexicali press is going to get all over this. They're going to say that we're going to start charging, that we're looking at this, and it's going to be such a negative impact, even if we don't do it, that I don't feel that we should even consider it this time. And if you decide to do it, the additional burden that you're going to put on the commerce of Calexico and the choppers of Mexicali and the people in whole is ridiculous. It's not what I feel that we want to invite to the people of Calexico. Thank you.
You're welcome. We did, there was this talk of this about 2 or 3 years ago, I believe, when this was being discussed. It's being discussed, I guess, again. Ms. Selwick.
Mr. Moreno, Mayor and Council, I didn't want to get up either. I just am basically kind of turned off with city government and politics, and I came especially today to hear what was going to be said about this. I hate to see this be the legacy of the Carrillo Moreno family, that they brought this toll, that they were so interested in putting a study, wasting time. It's just ridiculous. Could we call it the Carrillo Moreno booth? Toll booth? Memorial? Just like we have like the John Renison Memorial based off of Zapata Street, you know, where the water gets stuck there, the beautiful parks. You know, this is ridiculous. This city survives because of Mexicali. We're the tail, we're not the dog. We're the tail. We need to remember that, and we need to offer the best that we possibly can as a city. Yes, we get impacted. There's a lot of impacts, but I think we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Mexicali. What would be the point of Calexico? A lot of people that cross the border honestly come with $15, $16, $17 in their pocket to buy eggs and milk and bread, and they don't have the money to do that. And let me tell you, if it was reversed, I wouldn't be going to Mexicali if they were going to charge me to go shopping over there, because I go to Mexicali 3-4 times a week. I would not do it. I would make a strike on myself and refuse to go and pay someone to visit their city, to shop there, to visit their mother, to come to school, whatever it is. Are we going to, by the time you get all these, well, let's only charge field workers 10 cents because they're field workers, and let's not charge the kids that come to school in Calexico that walk across because they're kids, and let's not charge senior citizens. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And let's not charge Wednesdays because it's Las Palmas Day. You know, Let's just not even go there.
Thank you.
Thank
Ms.
you for
Selleck.
your time.
All right. Okay, any more discussion from the panel?
I guess I'll try to bring something a little more neutral. I know, speaking for myself, I am for growth in Calexico. I want my city, our city, to be healthy, just like everyone else does. However, prior to having, like Jordana says, waste or use other people's time into this idea, why don't we, as a city, do our own workshops, as Mr. Romero was saying? And I believe the most important part of all of this is probably to involve Mexicali Commerce, Chambers of Commerces, and have their input as well. My opinion at this point is that our relationship with Mexicali Commerce needs to be much stronger than it is now, and that this may be a beginning point where we can start establishing relationships with Mexicali businesses and representatives to have something in common that we can discuss, because this will affect them. And as many of everyone here is saying, is that Calexico and Mexicali, I've always told a lot of people, is just like one big city just divided by a fence. And our lives are so intertwined, and it's very different the way we live here than it is in a larger city out there. It's one big city divided by an international border. People really don't even see it as two different countries. So there's major issues going on right now with our downtown. For example, yesterday I had 2 individuals tell me that they waited an hour and 45 minutes to cross into Calexico walking. Our downtown looks like a war zone right now. Measure H, as Mr. Lopez was indicating, we don't even know the impact of what Measure H may be bringing to us. We need our community feedback, and we need to investigate ourselves and research ourselves before having to take on any other involvement, and find out for ourselves within our own community if this really will work for us.
Thank you. Mr. Hurtado? Mr. Castro, you have anything to say?
Yes, I have received so many calls from people from Mexicali, from Calexico, and these people are very upset. Sometimes the people from Mexicali, they last almost 3 hours just to cross the border. That's in car.
It's a pleasant experience.
And also the people who come into Calexico walking, they wait probably around 2 hours. 2 hours and sometimes 3 hours to cross the border. And I don't see that fair to just to get some revenue from to Calexico to charge also 50 cents or 25 cents for each person. I don't think it's right. That is going to hurt Calexico. That is going to hurt downtown. I don't think it's right. I don't have not even a percentage that is right. Instead, think to get some revenue from the border, from the people who came to Calexico and give us our revenues to Calexico. I believe we need to fix and work with downtown area, because someone mentioned downtown is very deteriorated. On First Street, there is on First Street there is a big and long cracks of the pavement. Probably the deep of the crack are probably 3 or 4 inches deep, and also the wide of the crack is around 3 or 4 inches. I mean, that's bad. And so for me, instead try to get some revenue for the people. We need to fix downtown, but because why? What can we offer to the people from Mexicali? Come on. Downtown is deteriorated. We need to work on that. I read on the financial report, and what I see $5 million. $5 million that account belongs to the city because of the Measure D. make sure this is to repair the streets of the city of Calexico. And that money, $5 million being there for almost a year and a half. And I read that information on the financial report. Come on, we need to work. We need to use the money. We need to use the grant. That's the way I see it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Castro. So here we are. What are the wishes of the council?
I motion for this consideration not to be approved.
There's a motion on the floor.
Second.
So who wants to second? Bill, were you first?
I'll second.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Romero, seconded by Mr. Hodge. It seems like that this is a no-go at this point. For discussion, I would say maybe looking at perhaps holding workshops.
Yes.
But maybe, would you like to include that in your motion?
I will include that in my motion, Mayor.
Okay, so we can have a couple of town hall meetings to discuss this, to look at the pros and cons that we know of. So we'll go with that.
Yes.
Okay.
So moved.
Okay. All those in favor respond by saying aye.
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 Opposed? None. Item 19, which is the appointments to the various council commissions. Council
one.
Hurtado and Hodge.
You have one appointment. Mayor,
Go ahead.
you have one appointment.
Yes, I know.
Okay.
And I haven't discussed, they haven't called me.
Oh, you haven't called?
Yeah, they haven't called me. If whoever wants to get appointed.
Well, just appoint him, and then you can always knock him out.
Thank you. Mr. Hodge, oh, he left.
Hurtado.
Ms. Hurtado, do you have your appointments? We'll start with the Arts Commission. And you would be replacing Mr. Uzan's appointment.
Going to be appointing our bid representatives?
Everybody.
And what about...
Bid is not on here?
No, it's not.
Yes. I thought it said Business Improvement District. It doesn't say bid. I think it says...
No, it was left off, but any of the commissions, boards, committees, whether they're on this list or not, can be appointed tonight.
Okay, and then Jennifer, I'm not sure if we notified Mr. Castro about my
I'm sorry?
my position.
Yes, the issue was that apparently Mayor Pro Tem Castro had appointed Councilwoman Hurtado to the bid. And he, according to our commission ordinance, once you are elected to a public office, you're not eligible to be appointed to a permanent position on a commission, board, or committee. We do have an ordinance that, an amendment that was approved last year that allowed council members to serve in an interim basis when there is a vacancy on one of their on one of the commissions that they made an appointment to. So I believe Mayor Uzan previously filled an interim vacancy on the bid, but the way our ordinance reads right now, permanent appointments cannot be made of sitting council members. So based on the fact that Councilwoman Hurtado was elected to the council, that would create a vacancy that Mayor Pro Tem Castro would need to appoint on the bid.
Okay. For the next council meeting?
Sure.
And I apologize because we just found that out today, for sure.
Okay. So are there any appointments that need to be made at this time, Ms. Hurtado?
Yes, and the other is, I'm not sure if it's appropriate this time, would be, are we going to be appointing ourselves Measure H?
No, the Measure H Oversight Committee would be done at a later time.
Okay.
Because it's not in the agenda.
Right.
And maybe future agenda item, we can do the Oversight Committee for Measure H. So do we have, Ms. Hurtado, do you have your appointments at this time?
Yes. I'd like to thank everybody who submitted applications. It was really exciting to see all of the different letters and applications that were submitted. There's a lot of interest out there, and some individuals I don't know, a lot of them I do. And before being elected to City Council, I didn't know that this was going to be so hard because there's so many good candidates out there. So I just want to make sure I said that. first.
You said that.
I'm going to go down the line. Arts Commission, I'd like to appoint Soledad Salazar.
Okay.
She was here just now. I guess she left.
All right.
Soledad
Um,
Salazar. For Art Commission, right?
Yes,
Yes.
going down the line.
Art Commission.
Beautification?
Beautification Commission, I received a letter, a really nice letter from Cristina Uriarte, so I'd like to, I'd like to appoint her.
Uriarte. Cristina Uriarte. Okay.
Economic Development, gentleman Eric Ortega was there already, so I'd like to reassign him.
Okay, just moving up. Okay.
Reassign him or whatever.
Planning.
Planning Commission, I'd like to assign Eduardo Lopez.
Okay.
Or appoint, is it appoint or assign? For Police Commissioner, I'd like to appoint Michael Davies. Recreation, I'd like to appoint Yolanda Bernal.
Who?
Yolanda Bernal, she was also already there, and reappointing her.
Okay.
Personnel Commission, I'd like to reassign Mr. Morris Risen. Library Board, I'd like to assign Elaine Perez. Historical Commission, I'd like to assign Margarita de Necochea.
Okay. Thank you very much. With the other appointments,
Was a bid appointment going to be made today?
Oh, right.
Oh, and my bid, I'm sorry. And my bid appointment would be, again, Mr. Eduardo Lopez.
I'd like to decline that and recommend that you appoint yourself.
But she can't.
Can't.
She can't.
She holds public office now. She can't. There is an amendment to our ordinance that allows council members to serve on an interim basis if there's a vacancy in their appointment. But our ordinance, permanent appointments cannot be made of council members who hold public office. He was
That's what she was
serving
clarifying.
because there was
That was David.
a vacancy. No. He was serving on the vacancy, the alternate interim vacancy position. It wasn't a permanent appointment.
that was the Prince of Tel Aviv.
Thank you, Lalo. Thank you, Lalo. I really appreciate that, but I did make sure to understand how that worked, why that happened in the past, and make sure that what we were doing was appropriate. So I made sure to ask those questions. But thank you. Thank you for considering me.
There's a new regime in town, okay. So we won't get to the bid till next week? Or
No,
next
no.
She
meeting?
appointed him.
Oh, you appointed?
Bid, we're doing bid, but you said that Measure H till next time.
Right.
Yeah, Lalo Lopez.
Well, is Eduardo accepting after all?
Okay. All right. Mr. Hodge, your appointments, Art Commission?
Hildy Carrillo. Name him out, John.
Okay. Beautification?
I had Christine also, so there's a mix-up, so I need to hold off on that.
Okay. Economic Development?
Benjamin Horton,
Okay.
Senior or junior?
senior, but he looks very young.
Planning?
Daniel Chides,
Okay. Police?
Vincent Cuevas,
What was the last time, Mr. Hodge?
Cuevas,
Oh, Cuevas.
Recreation?
Javier Magallanes. Help me on that. Forgive me on the mispronunciation.
Magallanes?
Yes.
Recreation.
Personnel?
Personnel, no one at this time.
Library?
Library Board, Margaret de Necochea.
Okay. And Historical Commission?
No one at this time, sir.
Bid?
Bid, Mark Holloway.
Mark Holloway, okay. Thank you. Arts Commission, I'd like to appoint Fernando Martinez. And we'd like to make sure that we get the Oversight Committee for Measure H at our next meeting. And that would be a panel of 5. Okay. Future agenda items by council members?
I have 3. I'd like to see the Community Development Agency make a presentation of its proposed budget for fiscal year 2010 and 2011.
The redevelopment agency? Okay.
Right. I would also like to see a budget being presented for the enterprise fund for budget year 2010, 2011.
I believe there was going to be a special meeting on August 11th for both RDA, and enterprise.
I have not received that information.
No, we discussed that today in our department head meeting.
Oh, but, okay. So
On the
there's gonna be-
August 3rd meeting, we're going to have the departments give their presentation of each department to inform the council based on last Thursday's request, and enterprise and the enterprise departments, RDA and utilities requested that they be together for a separate meeting on August 11th.
Okay, one is the presentation of their departments on what they're doing. The other one is
Their budget.
the actual budget.
Well, they want to combine it.
Okay, so for August,
August 11th.
August 11th, that would be,
Okay.
what is that day?
A Wednesday.
Wednesday. 5 p.m.? 6 p.m.?
5:30.
5:30, okay. And the other one is, I would like to see projects that require approval by council after being approved by planning commission or appealing a decision by planning commission will not be permitted to be addressed by council until the owner of the project can furnish indisputable legal document or documents to reflect that there is an unequivocal site control, like being the owner of the property or other documents that could be supported legally if challenged.
I'm sorry, say that again? No, I'm kidding.
I have it written down, so I don't have to remind.
Okay. Regarding site control.
Regarding site
Before an
control.
application is made.
No, before it reaches the council. I understand that after a brief discussion with Director Villa, or Assistant City Manager Villa, is that at the very least, they must have an opportunity to review the project if it's something that could be doable. But have it go through the process of the planning commission, that's fine. But I would like to see where the council doesn't even entertain it until at least those issues are resolved.
Okay.
So we don't have a similar case from the recent past.
I do have I'm sorry, before you go on, Mr. Romero, I do have, I guess, an addendum to the agenda that I didn't have before, which was a couple of business items with regard to the letter, the MOU with SEIU.
That has been tabled,
Okay.
continued to the next meeting, so it'll be just a
And
request
how about the joint use agreement?
from the school district.
Right. So that needs to come up for discussion at this time?
Well,
Consider authorizing,
That would be the second
item.
second agenda. We're still finishing the first one.
that's what we decided.
No,
to-
this was,
It's special.
It's
So
a
we're gonna do
special
it
meeting
first.
agenda.
okay, special session,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, so, all right, my first two requests will be taken care of at the meeting on August 11th, correct? And so this would be my future agenda item on the site control.
Okay, the third one?
No, that were the
Oh,
two, the enterprise and the community redevelopment, and then the site control issue.
Okay.
Anyone else for future agenda items?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Did you get the word?
I would like to make a request that we consider action and put on the next city agenda of looking at the issue of possibly laying off on-site employees and bringing back city staff employment at a
Would that be a personnel
proper-
issue? Would that have to be, Ms. Lyon?
There may be some appropriate closed session discussion related to that. There can also be, open session if the council is ready to take action, or if there's, discussion that would be part of the public session.
But we could put it on, and then if we're not ready, we could just table it?
You want to put on closed session?
We can put it on closed session as well as open session, so if there's any action taken in closed session,
That's what we
you
reported.
could take- you'll
Let's
have
do
to take
something
in public
about it.
session.
Let's do something about it. Okay? So what's it going to be then?
It'll be closed session and possible open session.
Okay.
Is that correct?
As it relates to meet and confer issues, that can be discussed in closed session. Any action to either terminate the contract or make revisions to the on-site contract would have to be done in open session. So we'll be putting both of them, pursuant to the city manager, we'll be putting both of them on it'll be on open session, and if there are closed session aspects that can be discussed by the council, that will be on the agenda too.
For next agenda. Thank you. Number 2, I'd like to be put on the agenda, putting back on the proposed budget, the possibility of moving Measure H funds, that initial $500,000, because I feel that we are in a crisis with public safety, and I would like to put that on the agenda.
But first we'd have to appoint.
Okay,
Well, I don't know if we have to first to appoint a committee. That bothers me, and then we have a delay.
Okay.
She just made a good point. Do we have to first appoint and get going the committee, or can we at least put this on the agenda
About moving money into the general fund for Measure H.
for public safety as it was
We can't do
intended?
anything right now. It hasn't even started.
We haven't even started implementing the tax.
That would be a
It goes
discussion
into
for
effect
November
October
1st.
1st. The first advance will be received by the city December 10th.
Okay, so December 10th?
December 10th will be when we see any money coming in.
Okay. And then the third one pertains to the comment that I made earlier, in that I would like to consider a resolution, put on the agenda a resolution, that no new information is introduced on a day of a meeting, a city council meeting, which I interpret that happened that Friday at
You mean as a
12
special
o'clock.
You mean like a continuation of a meeting? Because new information is usually presented.
And it's posted 48 hours beforehand, right?
A special meeting 24 hours in advance, the agenda is posted. That doesn't prohibit staff from bringing, at least under state law, it doesn't prohibit staff from bringing additional ideas or options to the council at the council meeting. If you're proposing something to this effect, then it would just be essentially a local rule related to how information is presented to the council.
I'm just bothered that that information was posted at the last minute right there, and nobody had any time to study it.
You can
And
always-
we didn't even allow the public to comment on it. Forgive me, someone did clarify something to me, that if it was a continuation, there should have been a statement that we're going to adjourn and continue this very issue, and I believe that that was not said by Mayor Uzan at the time. And then there were new developments.
Well, in essence, just to respond to that, Councilman Hodge, after the Tuesday meeting, I believe it was the 29th, council in closed session directed the city manager and the administrative staff to come up with new or additional proposals if possible. Either look, and that was where option 2 was created. And then in the ensuing day, option 3 was developed, and then the morning of that meeting, option 4. And that special meeting was called for Friday, when the city council was able to meet, where they were able to get 5 to be there from Tuesday's meeting. And as a result of Wednesday's work that was done, and so that's when the special meeting was called on Wednesday for Friday at noon. And the council had the option of approving one of the proposals, or rejecting all of them, or taking from each. And that was an action that the previous city council took before their term was up.
But again, my point is,
on July 6th. I understand where you may feel like it was railroaded or done in haste.
and that the public, I mean, did the public have any ample time ahead of time to look at those new developments, the news options?
They were being developed that morning.
Well, that's not good. We shouldn't work that way.
In essence, unless it's time sensitive, for example, something that comes up that there's a deadline, you can always adhere to having your council meetings the first and third Tuesday of the month.
I don't know what that means. I just want proper timeline for people to be able to see the information, study it, and not put anything of that kind of weight right there at the last minute and go, what? Huh? Eh? Give me a dictionary. I don't understand what's going on. Up, it passes. That's it. Done deal. Not good.
Okay, going on to the special business item on the agenda. Consider, I'm sorry, you guys.
Well, I don't know. I don't know where to go with this now.
Okay.
You're telling me that.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. No, I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
No, they're not finished. You're not finished.
Yes, I'm done. I don't.
So the resolution
I don't know
was
what
not
the
to-
legal what
The resolution you wanted considered.
is to look at how we can construct a better process where what happened doesn't happen, and that is new weighty information presented right there on the spot that has a great impact of city employees, the city functioning, and in the community, and denied public access, public input. I don't know, I teach democracy, so that's what I've learned.
Well, in essence, it's involving the process of calling for a special meeting and what the restrictions and limitations are
Yeah.
and what the allowances are. We'll have that information for you.
Thank you.
Mr. Castro.
Yes, yes. I would like to see for the next council meeting a financial report for expenditures, because I like in this time we passing through a difficult crisis, and one of my concern is about overtime, because overtime hurt a lot to the city of Calexico, and I like to see that information every council meeting for every department. I like to see that. And that's gonna be for every department for the next council meeting.
Ms. Hurtado?
I actually had 3 items, but he mentioned one, and we already talked about the other. I wanted to ensure that we make sure to appoint our Measure H people, and then related to what he just said now, but he's speaking of two times a month, but rather I believe we had spoken about a monthly meeting. We know what our budget is, but as Mr. Castro is saying, looking at the expenses now being in, that we are in the crisis that we are, that is something of interest to myself as well, is to look at how the expenses are happening. The other item, I guess, would be something that is what we've talked about today and continues to be on my mind, is maybe have a presentation soon with regard to downtown. Our downtown at this point has had several buildings demolished, but we still have quite a bit of fencing out there. I referred to it as a war zone earlier, and I guess I don't have to say more than that. But something on the agenda to discuss, have someone like Mr. Morales himself come up and let us know what's going on. We can ask questions. Yeah.
So you want an update on downtown and the status and...
Yes, opportunity for us to also discuss that and take a serious look at that, because we have gone through several months of waiting for many of the business owners to take action in either repairing those buildings or something, and it's, for myself, being that I'm in downtown all the time, I just feel it's too slow. And so maybe taking a look at that and possibly looking at some pressure would be a very interest of me, for me.
Violating the Brown Act, that's okay.
I saw that. We're late.
I just want some
retired.
clarification on what he said.
Okay, so that was it. For now, that's all I can think of.
Not if we're in public session.
Right.
To your comment.
Well, I'm just, what type of report?
We're talking about the report he was asking for.
Would it be a summary? Would it be a detailed report?
Well, first, I understand is the financial report for expenditures for the upcoming fiscal year, what's proposed to be spent, or what we spent for July?
For every
department.
for every department.
No, you wanted overtime from every department.
Exactly, the overtime for every department. I wanna be on top of that.
Okay, so
I'm
you want
very
every
concerned
department
on
to
that.
report their overtime expenses?
Yes.
Okay.
That's
Thank
Mr.
you.
Castro, but
Right.
I wouldn't mind looking at the overall. There is a lot of criticism towards the fact that many of the departments overspent what they were allowed as a budget. So to be able to have more of a watchful eye on a monthly basis as far as how that's going on, just because of the situation that we're in right now. If it becomes a habit for future, fine, but that is a concern to look at that particular area of, because of the fact that in the past, we've probably gotten to this point because of the overspending. So a little tweaking what he just said, but hope that helps.
I think what we're asking is more reports, more transparency. What's going on? I do agree, Councilman, that it appears, no, it doesn't appear, it is, overtime is out of control. I mean, what's going on? We have a problem with scheduling. Why are so many people calling in sick? What's going on? We need answers to this. And it appears to be in a lot of departments. It concerns me. Ooh, we could save a lot of money if we, curb that.
Well, I had a few items, but I think this is enough for them. I would not want to overburden our staff with the work that they have to do more with less. But we'll get on to item number 2 on the business item of the agenda, which is the City Council Redevelopment Agency, is considering the authorizing city manager to sign a letter and/or make further revisions if necessary to memorialize understanding and agreement with respect to the joint use agreement between the City of Calexico and the Calexico Unified School District related to the swimming pool located at 1030 Encinas.
Mr. Mayor, this was brought forward as a request from the Calexico Unified School District via School Superintendent Dr. Cristina Luna, in essence asking the city to memorialize a understanding and agreement with respect to the joint use between the City of Calexico and the Calexico Unified School District related to the swimming pool that was damaged severely enough in the April 4th earthquake that its intended use is no longer in existence, and they're in the process of demolishing and removal of that. And the idea is to remove the city from any liability and any cost coverage for the repairs, demolition, removal of that swimming pool. Am I correct, Dr. Luna? If
Would you like to say anything, Dr. Luna?
I'm not sure if I formally thanked the council for their support during the earthquake recovery. I would also like to just say to Ms. Hurtado, it's very frustrating and it's a very slow process, and it's no fault of any of your people. I just need to share that because I think we share the same frustration of how long things take. We did have a report with the pool that went out as a press release, but I just want to give you a little bit of the details of what went on with the pool. We knew that the pool was damaged. We didn't know the extent. We had to have several specific engineers who deal with pools. We were losing about 1 inch to 2 inches a day since the beginning of the earthquake, and we were considering different ways to demolish or what to do with it until the engineers came in. One of our main worries was that if there was enough water that was underneath the pool, it would literally pop up and crack, the surrounding area and make it more difficult to dismantle as we needed to do. What happened, we did have some engineers, they told us to start draining the pool, but as we drained it, to drill holes into the side of the pool and also in the bottom of the pool. So in that whole process, when they were doing it in the shallower end, there were holes that were drawn in, and it was like water hoses where the water was coming back into the pool. In the deep end of the pool, when we drained it and were starting to build, make holes in the pool as was instructed by the engineers, it was filling up to about 2 feet. and that had to be pumped out, and that was probably for about a week or so that water was. So it was really a mess, much more than we thought, but we did do it in time so that it will minimize for that. So again, we just want to thank the city for being available for meetings with us. There is some good news with this, not just the relinquishing the city of all liability with that, but this letter is actually a request that FEMA had told, had asked if we could get from the city. What will happen though from the funds, either to repair or recover, more than likely recover and not repair, because it's not repairable. We did have severe structural damage also to the pool building. We're also finding out that the decking around the pool area has been damaged in the outside areas. So the whole area is beyond repair, but we will have to use that money for another joint use project. So we're excited about that. Hopefully, it might take years, that's what we're hearing, but we will be able to come back at least with some good news that we will be doing some joint use with that monies. So again, this was, I'm not sure if it was you, Mr. Romero, who brought up about, or Mr. Hodge, who said emergency things that come up. This was an emergency that I had called the city very late notice, and the FEMA representative said, can you get this into us, like yesterday? And so again, I appreciate the council taking consideration and putting this on as an emergency item. And sometimes we don't have a lot of time. It's out of our hands. It's other people asking us to do this, but I didn't want to forgo this opportunity. I knew you were having a meeting today, so I really appreciate your consideration and hopefully your support.
Thank you, Dr. Luna. What are the direction of the council?
I think we should support it.
Okay.
So moved.
So moved. Seconded? Second. Second by Mr. Castro. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. And this meeting is now adjourned.